18-year-old student Jennifer Ravgiela is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old fast food worker Raymond Roberts, for the return of money meant for her prom, an unpaid loan, and the return of property. Raymond is countersuing for a false restraining order.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 30 on the matter. Okay, Your Honor, this is case number 30 in the matter of Ravgiela versus Roberts.
Thank you.
Get a little tongue-tied now and then. The parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
What's your first name?
Jennifer.
How old are you, Jennifer?
I'm 18. I just turned 18 3 days ago.
Order.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you, Mr. Roberts?
23.
What's your first name?
Raymond.
Jennifer, Raymond was your boyfriend.
Yep.
You claim he owes you some money. Not a whole lot of money. $300 some odd.
Yep.
You said he owes you the money for the following 2 items. You gave him $100 in which to put down as a deposit for the limousine for your senior prom.
That's right.
And you had an argument, and he kept the money, and he didn't take you to the prom. And you acknowledged that you kept the $100.
I guess I did.
And then you say that over the course of your relationship, you sold candy for school, and he took your candy money. And about that, Mr. Roberts says, she took me out for dinner, and we went places together.
That's not true.
I'm just telling you what he says. That's his answer. Then you say that he came to your house when you weren't home with a police officer and took a Christmas gift that he had bought you.
That's right.
Which was?
Supposedly it was a stereo. I did buy a stereo, but it was not a gift.
A stereo that was in her house.
A stereo that was at her house.
And you took that and you want the value of that back, or the stereo back.
Yep.
You say it was a Christmas gift.
Yep, it was.
Now, Raymond says that you owed him money for a Sprint bill.
That's not true.
Just telling you what he says. And that he merely was collecting on that. That's what the $100 was for?
Yep,
as well as the stereo.
The stereo, no. The stereo was mine. I was taking it back.
And Raymond is counterclaiming. He said because you and your mother sort of overreacted to a little argument you were having and had him arrested for kidnapping you.
He was never arrested.
Shh. And he was forced to defend these charges temporarily, right?
Right.
How old was she when you started to date her, Raymond?
17.
And how old were you?
At the time, I was 22.
Not terrible, not terrific. What did she owe you money for?
She owes me money for a Sprint bill for the 2 months.
Now, how is it that you're paying her Sprint bill?
I have 2 phones, and I let her use one of my other phones. And we agreed that...
Just a minute. You got a phone for yourself.
Yes, I've got a
phone. And you gave her a phone?
Yes, under my name.
And when did you do that? How long ago?
I think it might have been sometime in October. I might have given her the phone, September, October.
She was 17?
Correct.
And you had an agreement with her?
Yes.
And what was your agreement?
That I would split the bill in half. I'd pay my half, she'd pay her half.
That's not right.
So what you're telling me is you had a verbal contract with her?
Correct.
You can't.
You can't.
Right. She's not old enough. She's not old enough to make that contract. She has to be 18 in order to make a contract that's valid and binding. So, Raymond, that's one of the downsides of dating a younger woman.
I'm learning that now.
So she owes you diddly.
Okay.
So let's start with, you owe her $100 for the limousine.
Okay.
So $100, Jennifer, is on your side.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to hear about the candy money. I want you to forget the candy money. If you were dumb enough to give him candy money or to spend candy money, I don't want to hear about it. Yes, you want to say something? It sounded like you were winning the candy money.
No, she still has belongings of mine at her house.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
We are now on the stereo.
All right.
That she says was a Christmas present, and you said was just yours.
This is fine.
When did you get the stereo?
Christmas Eve was put in my house, and my mom was actually there. And he actually said to her, you know, this is a Christmas gift. I bought it for her.
And it was in your house starting Christmas time?
Yep.
When did you take it out of the house?
I think it was like March.
So, December to January, January to February, February to March. It was in her house for 3 months.
Correct.
Who do you live with?
My grandparents.
Do you have your own room?
Yes.
You have a stereo?
No.
So if you bought the stereo in December, I assume that that's what the receipt says, that it was purchased in December?
Correct.
What date in December?
The 17th, which she was with me.
If it was purchased in December and you don't have a stereo in your room, why didn't you take it to your house?
I was letting her use it.
Baloney. Let me see the bill. You have the perks of a younger woman. You have to have the plagues of a younger woman. Plague is she's not old enough to make a contract. Okay, so this whole thing cost $189?
Correct.
Where's the stereo now?
At my house.
In your?
In my room.
In your room?
In my room.
Where it would have been from the very beginning if it was bought for you. Now, a couple of other questions just for my own information, sir. What did Jennifer get you for Christmas?
Electric shaver and a couple of shirts.
A couple of shirts?
Yes.
What did you get for Jennifer for Christmas? See what I mean? Got where I'm going?
Yeah.
Raymond? Got where I'm going?
Yes, I do.
Good. So we have $289 on your side, because now Raymond gets it. Right, Raymond?
Yes.
Didn't think fast enough.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get to your counterclaim.
Okay.
You had an argument in the car.
Correct.
What date?
March 5th, to be exact.
And the argument was about your being cheap?
If you want to put it that way.
What?
If you want to put it that way.
Well, that's what it was about. You're being cheap. You're mooching off her. I mean, I read the complaint.
No, I wasn't mooching off her. I was just asking her for, you know, simple money for the bill. That's all.
That's what she was complaining. Don't play with paper around me. So you're having the argument in the car.
Correct.
And what happened?
We got in a major argument about money, about the Sprint bill and everything. And she said, oh, I'm not going to pay for the bill. I don't have to pay for the bill. You know, I was like, well, you used the phone. You know, I think you should be responsible for the charge if you're going to use the phone. And she said no, and I says, fine. You want to be that way towards me? I will take the limo money, and I'll use that limo money to cover your part of the bill since you want to pay me the money. And we'll take it from there. It'll be fine. Well, from that point on, she decided to call her mother and say I was threatening her, made a huge big deal out of everything. She said, bring me home, bring me home, bring me home. I said, fine, I'll bring you home. When she told me she wasn't going to pay the bill, when she was on the phone with her mother, I actually called Sprint, and I had the phone shut off right then and there. And I guess that's when her mother panicked and decided to call the state police and the cops, and I had the cops.
That was really stupid of you, Raymond.
Yeah.
Girl is talking to her mother,
Yeah.
right? So her mother knows she's safe, she's well. You pick up your cell phone, and you call Sprint, and you say, cut off the other number?
If that was my phone,
I was...
how could I shut it off?
Listen, don't speak.
I
I'm
was
not talking to you.
All right.
I was not expecting them to shut off right then and there, because I didn't think they could shut off
What
the
did you
phone
say
with
to
phone
them
service.
to have them shut it off right then and there?
I asked them if they could
curious.
shut off the service. And, no, basically you can't have incoming or outgoing calls.
And they said, okay?
They said fine. I didn't think they could do it during a phone call. My mistake.
Well, you found out that they could.
Yeah, I did, the hard way.
Tell me what happened. Were you arrested? Were you
No, I
charged with anything?
No, I was not arrested.
Well, then what happened? So
Just
what
the
do you...
embarrassment of a false restraining order because
Okay, so they took out a restraining order against you?
got a restraining order on me a couple days later.
You have a copy of the allegations that you made in the restraining order? Raymond,
Yes,
you ever been arrested before?
a long time ago.
How long ago?
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah,
Nothing since.
nothing.
You work? You have
Yes, I
a
work.
nice job?
Decent job.
What do you do?
Actually, I'm training to be a manager at McDonald's right now.
So you're working at McDonald's?
Correct.
Okay. You don't look like a bad guy, Raymond. You don't look like you have a bad temper. Does he have a bad temper?
Oh, yes.
Never touched you, did he?
No.
You have a bad temper?
No.
Huh?
No?
She have a bad temper?
She has her moments. she has her moments that she can
When I'm
flip
with
out.
you.
Oh.
Well, either you have
Well,
a
hey.
temper or you don't have a temper. You understand? Daughter sometimes has a temper?
Yeah.
Sometimes. You think you overreacted to this a little bit?
I don't. I was scared if he shut off my cell phone.
Well, see, Raymond, that was your mistake. Do you understand?
Yes.
That was really your mistake. Aside from the fact that when this happened, she was 17. Dating a minor is an issue. I can imagine how her mother felt. She's talking to her daughter. Her daughter's a 17-year-old idiot who's in the car, is having a fight about whatever. And all of a sudden, no, don't speak. And all of a sudden, that conversation is interrupted and she can't get back to her daughter. One day you'll have a daughter. You will understand what that must feel like. You understand?
Yes.
The charges were dropped on this protective order?
Yeah. 2 weeks later, on the date that we're supposed to, you know, see if it was going to get extended or not, it got dropped.
Right. Because everybody got cooler. Good. Okay. So, Raymond, next time you'll be smarter. Next time. Pick on somebody your own age, you'll be much happier. Look at their birth certificate, make sure that they're 18 or over before you make a contract with them. Understood?
Understood.
Well, you get $289, $100 for the limo, $189 for his Christmas present that he took back. You, on your counterclaim, get nothing but a good lesson. All right? Thank you very much. Two nice people. Move on with your life. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was a very controlling guy, and I just figured put it on national television to see the whole world how controlling he is.
It's okay. It sounds fair. My mistake.
I didn't like him from the beginning because she was only 17.
My mother doesn't know how to stay out of things.
When he wanted her to go somewhere, she had to do it.
She's always trying to tell me what to do.
If he didn't want her to go, she couldn't do it.
Not seeing a 23-year-old again.
I didn't like it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sarah Borden versus Taylor Marquez. Step forward, please.
19-year-old barista Devin Serra and her boyfriend, Michael Borden, are suing their former roommates, 20-year-old cashier Angela Marquez and her boyfriend, Gary Taylor, for breaking a lease. Angela says she moved out because she was scared to live with Devin.
The two of you decided to lease an apartment with the two of you.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Leased the apartment when?
December 11th in 2004.
Moved in when?
That same day.
That was fast. How big an apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
You're not married.
No.
You're not married.
No,
You're going to have a baby.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Everything's right. You're all friends, right?
Yes.
When did you move out?
January 28th, 2005.
Okay, and you want 3 months' rent from them
Yes.
because you're stuck with the lease.
Yeah.
And you also say that when they moved out, they took some property that didn't belong to
Yes,
them.
they did.
You'll tell me about that in a minute. And you say you had to move out because she threatened you, and they both told you to go, and you just went. And you couldn't be stressed out because you're pregnant.
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are you?
20.
How old are you?
I'm 20, Your Honor.
Do you have a job?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you work at?
I'm a firefighter.
And you?
Cashier.
Two 20-year-olds having a baby? That would make me nervous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She grabs the salt and the pepper, she throws it against the wall. She comes after me, in my face, picking up her hands like she was going to come after me and hit me.
Oy, 20 years old and you're having a child.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Devin Serra and her boyfriend Michael Borden claim former roommates Angela Marquez and her boyfriend Gary Taylor owe for breaking a lease.
Okay. Are you still living in the apartment?
Yes, we are.
Do you have new roommates?
Not yet.
How much is the rent?
$865 a month.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a barista.
A what?
A barista.
What's a barista?
I work at Starbucks. Cashier, make drinks.
Yeah, they make burritos, I think.
No, barista. No, really, seriously.
A
what's
barista, yeah.
Is that what it's called, a barista?
Yes.
So you work at Starbucks full-time?
Part-time.
What else do you do?
I'm a student.
How much do you make from working as a barista?
I make $7.20 an hour.
How much do you take home every week?
Every 2 weeks, I make about $200.
And that's what you support yourself on?
Myself, yeah.
And what about you?
Seasonal firefighter.
Seasonal firefighter.
Firefighter.
What does that mean?
Work with the Forest Service, so I wildland firefighting, just with the summer.
What do you do the rest of the time?
Right now, I'm working as an athletic trainer. At the
You
high
train people individually or what?
It's with the high school.
How much do you make?
It's $12.66 an hour, and I bring home about $2,000, a little over $2,000 a month.
Okay, so you can afford the rent.
Yes.
Great. You're going to stay in this apartment?
Yes.
Why don't you sign off on the lease?
We did, Your Honor. We tried.
No, you either did or you tried.
We did.
You did sign off
yes.
on the lease.
My fiance had
Let me
gone to the manager's office and asked for a release form. And we showed it to them, and they said they weren't going to sign us off if we didn't pay the February rent.
You left there because of your own safety, is that right?
Yes.
You had security deposit.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much security deposit did you put down?
$250.
That's for both of you, was the security deposit?
It was actually $450, but in half, it was about $225 each on deposit from each couple.
From each couple?
From each couple.
Okay. You moved out January 28th. Why shouldn't you be responsible for February's rent? They certainly couldn't find somebody else in 2 days to rent the apartment.
Because January, I would say the 21st, on January is a Sunday. I had like the last straw with them. I was like in a mood that I couldn't talk to them. I didn't want to just go out there and say stuff. And so finally I told Mike if we could talk. And he said, sure, meet us for dinner here at the house and we'll talk. So we talked about it. We sat there. I went first, and I told her how I felt, and everybody. Then she went, and she said how she felt and whatnot. Well, all of a sudden, she went crazy. She went out of this world. She pulled out of her chair. She started screaming and saying, I'm not happy that you're pregnant. It's not fair that you're pregnant. I had an abortion. I did this and this and this and that. And she thought, it's my fault that I brought you together and you're pregnant. You're going to suffer and you're this and that. And then she just pulls out of her chair. She grabs the salt and the pepper. She throws it against the wall. She goes back to her room screaming and just going crazy. She comes back out of her room throwing stuff, just hitting walls and whatnot. She comes after me. Like she was this close from me, in my face, picking up her hands like she was going to come after me and hit me. Then
What was she saying to you?
Saying that she couldn't take it anymore. She didn't like living with me and Gary, that she hated the fact that I was pregnant, and she had to see me happy. She didn't want to see me happy. And I was like, okay, don't you want to see me happy?
Oy, 20 years old and you're having a child.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Now, why were you upset?
We were all upset.
I assume you were all upset.
Yeah.
Good. I don't want to be upset.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be upset. Where are you living now?
We're living somewhere else now, in another apartment.
They signed off on the lease on January 25th.
That was the date I got the papers, and
Yeah.
that was the day I wanted all of us to get the signatures so we can get off the lease.
Did you or did you not sign off on the lease?
We
did.
signed it, and they had to sign it. The manager told us, we cannot get you off the lease unless they sign you off because they're still staying there.
Fine. Court will draft an order 5 days from today. Do you all live in the same town?
Yes.
ma'am.
You're all going to meet in the landlord's office, 9 a.m. Sign the release form. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
I am going to award you their share of February's rent because they had an obligation to pay at least 1 month's rent for you to spend that month looking for a new roommate if that's what you wanted to do. I think that that's fair, don't you?
Yes, Your Honor.
When you sign off on the lease, you will also get a check for $250 for your security deposit. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you don't go there 5 days from today, I'm giving the plaintiffs the right to come back and ask for a judgment for the remainder of the lease, and they will take it out of your pay. Do you understand?
Yes,
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Do you understand the order?
Yes.
Good. Now, let's get to what property you say they took when they moved out.
When they were moved out, they took a lot of belongings and stuff.
Oh,
when they moved
a
out.
lot of belongings doesn't help me, madam.
They took food, they took
I don't
cleaning
care.
supplies.
Are you kidding me or what? Other than food and cleaning supplies.
That's all they took.
I hope you've replaced them. You don't want the food back, do you?
No.
Good. Okay, you understand the order?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Plaintiff Darlene Brown is suing anger management counselor Thomas Wilson for a refund of his fee. Darlene says her son was kicked out of class.
Yeah, this is case number 133 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mrs. Brown, I assume that this gentleman here is your son, is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
The son who was directed by a court to take anger management classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that that was as a result of some sort of a domestic dispute?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wilson runs the anger management program, and your complaint alleges that you paid for part of a course that your son did not take because Mr. Wilson wouldn't let him take it. And Mr. Wilson owes you $200. Mr. Wilson says that your son was disruptive in the class, that he failed to follow the rules, and that he does not refund money. Pretty much is what you're saying, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Step up, please. Mr. Fugit, when were you directed to take an anger management program?
I don't recall the specific date.
Mrs. Brown, do you?
Yes, ma'am. It was on 4/18/03.
And that was a result of a conviction for domestic violence?
Yes, I was convicted of a domestic violence charge.
Was there any jail time involved?
Yes, I believe there was.
What do you mean you believe?
I don't recall how long I spent in jail for that. I spent some time and I bonded out. I went to court and hired a lawyer, and I was convicted of a domestic violence charge.
And then did you go back to jail?
No, ma'am, I didn't. I was court ordered to go to a doctor and do a psychological evaluation, which I did, and I was directed to do a 32-hour combination class of anger management, 16 hours, and then a 16-hour domestic violence class, and that's what I attempted to do.
Well, so what happened?
Well, I attended the first 16-hour class.
Which was what?
16 hours of anger management.
Okay. So you attended the first half of the two-part series. Second part you didn't attend?
I showed up for the first session of the second part of the series, Your Honor.
And what happened?
There was 4 or 5 of us, and we discussed what was going to be happening, and they showed a video where the husband comes home from work, drinking, the wife's there, she wants to get out, go to her friends, she wants to go bowling, he's saying no, he doesn't like her friends, and he's being very verbally abusive to her and physically intimidating, and he slams her up against the drywall, and he draws back his hand like he's going to hit her, and they stop the program. And the instructor, Rick, asked us to please participate and comment on what it is that we saw. And 2 people that were in the class made their comments to it. It came to me. I told the instructor, Rick, that I found the class to be offensive, and I didn't see why I had to sit there and be subjected to that type of domestic violence inside of the class.
Well, you were convicted of domestic violence.
I was convicted of domestic violence, but I'm not a wife batterer. It was under a different circumstance.
You didn't think that you were that kind of a batterer, so why should you be forced to watch that film? Is that really what you were saying? I'm trying to understand. The film wasn't offensive. The film is designed to be instructive.
Correct.
Now, if you found the husband's behavior offensive, that's a different story. I find the man's behavior offensive. So which one was it?
The instructor asked me to participate in the class, and he asked me what I thought of the film. And I just primarily told him that I found the behavior of the man in the film to be offensive. And
I'm not sure that that's what you... I mean, that's not... I think that you're playing with me now, Jason, because if you said to the instructor, I found that the man's behavior was offensive, that's the right answer. So I'm not sure that that's what happened.
Okay.
Anyway, you were asked to leave.
Yes, I was.
So your mother paid for the class?
Yes, ma'am.
He was asked to leave the second class. Is that the $200 you want back?
Yes, ma'am.
And?
He was asked to leave, and we sent a notice to the probation officer indicating that he was uncooperative, he didn't show any empathy, so sometime later he was reordered.
He was reordered to go back to the program?
To go back to our program.
Okay.
And we agreed to take him back, but the condition was that he would have to repeat the anger management portion of the class.
Was there any reason you wanted him to restart the whole program?
Because he didn't show any real evidence that he'd learned anything from the first phase of treatment.
Okay. I would like to see the court order.
This is the original court order.
I want to see the court order. This order was dated April 17, 2003.
Yes, ma'am.
The judge directed your son to complete 32 hours of domestic violence education.
Yes, ma'am.
It was to enroll within 30 days and then promptly complete 32 hours of domestic violence education.
Yes, ma'am.
You did not do that. You enrolled, but you did not promptly complete.
That's what the probation violation was for, and then
Good! Then you belonged in jail. If that's what the order was, you see, I always had a problem when you got a third chance. As a sitting judge, I believe that we send the wrong message to people when they are convicted of a crime, as he was, and given an opportunity to remain at liberty under certain conditions. And then if you do not comply with the conditions, you're given another chance, which is really what happened. If I were the judge in that case, his behind would have been behind bars, and he would have been resentenced. He doesn't get a chance to say, I'm a victim, I don't belong in this place, I don't belong watching this domestic violence film, it offends me. I don't give a rat's behind whether it offends your son or not, madam. I don't.
May I say something?
I'm going to finish.
Okay.
He did not promptly complete 32 hours because he didn't like the first movie.
And he was asked to leave.
He was disruptive to the program. He doesn't have an option. That's part of anger management. Don't you understand? That's part of the drill. You have to stop making excuses for your son. It's part of the drill. He doesn't get to choose his punishment. I don't care if they showed movies of somebody shoveling crap into a fan. And he found it offensive. That's what he does. And then when he's court ordered to go back to the program, what you're saying is, well, he completed the first 16 hours. He shouldn't have to complete that first 16 hours again. He should be able to go for the second 16 hours, right?
The court order says he just has to complete 16 hours of domestic violence.
Let me see it.
The judge found that I completed the first 16 hours.
Let me see it.
When I went back to court.
Let me see it.
I also have audio.
Okay, in August we went back, and right here it says you were to enroll in and then promptly complete the remaining 16 hours of domestic violence. That is true. Did you get a copy of this?
I did, Your Honor.
So? I mean, I wouldn't have done it.
I disagreed with the court, Your Honor.
You can't. Unfortunately, Mr. Wilson, I disagree with the court, too. You can't.
Okay.
I would have put his behind in jail, because one of the problems with domestic violence is, and anger management is, you have to show that you can control yourself well enough to do certain things even if you don't like them. You don't like your wife, you don't like her behavior. This was your wife, wasn't it? This woman that you're supposed to stay away from, Jessica?
That's my ex-wife.
Oh, your ex-wife.
That's not what I was convicted of. That was.
Well, have no contact with her. You mean they just picked her name out of a hat?
That was because of a divorce and a similar circumstance.
You mean they just picked Jessica's name out of a hat to put on this order twice? 2 times. They said, stay away from Jessica.
Maybe I didn't understand the question, Your Honor.
Well, did you commit domestic violence against anybody else except Jessica?
Yeah, that was the charge.
Somebody else or Jessica?
It wasn't against Jessica, Your Honor.
Who was it against?
I'm not exactly sure. I was having problems, and she went over to her brother's. I went over there, and I had my infant son in my hand, and I was trying to talk to my wife. And I walked around to the front of the house, and her 2 brothers and her sister was pulling my child out of my arms.
Listen to me. I'm not getting into that. Were you convicted after a jury trial, or did you plead guilty?
I had hired a lawyer, and it was...
Listen, I asked you one question.
I was convicted of a domestic violence charge. It did not
Just a second.
my wife.
I asked you a simple question, and you're not listening to me, which is the problem that you have. I said, were you convicted after a jury trial, or did you plead guilty? Is that a hard question, Bird? No. Were you convicted after a jury trial, or did you plead guilty?
I guess I pled guilty to it.
I guess. Mr. Wilson, this is your problem, sir. You disagreed with the court order. I do, too. But we live in a country that is ruled by law. And while I would have made him take the course all over again, the court gave him a break and said he only had to complete 16 hours of the domestic violence portion of the program. What happened to you after August when you didn't complete the program?
I went back and reported it to my probation officer, and there was conflict. Earlier, and the probation officer said that there was obviously a problem between me and Mr. Wilson, but the VA wasn't going to violate my probation again under circumstances. I didn't have the money to enroll into another class to complete the class, so it's actually never been finished.
What a travesty. I mean, it's a joke. You're ordered to complete a program. You don't complete the program. You're given another opportunity, because it doesn't say to complete 16 hours in his program. It says completed the other 16 hours. So in August of 2003, you were given a second chance, or a third chance, to be at liberty. And according to you, since August of 2003, you didn't have the money that was necessary to complete 16 hours of domestic violence classes. Is that what you're telling me?
It was already paid to Mr. Wilson.
I don't care. Are you telling me that you didn't have the money to comply with the court order? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm telling you.
In a year and a half? You're a liar. In any event, you owe him $200. You can't second-guess the court. He would have found himself telephoning his mother once a week from a jail cell if it was up to me, but it's not. It's unfortunate that people laugh at the court system because they don't make orders that they are prepared to stick to. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He should have followed through with what he was supposed to do.
The program is designed for a spouse batterer, and that's not what I was charged with, the domestic violence.
He was disruptive in my class. He didn't follow the rules.
People are individuals.
He's gone through a lot, and he's up there now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Romine versus Reynolds, step forward.
22-year-old clerical worker Catherine Romine is suing her former roommate, 22-year-old medical assistant Jessica Reynolds, for unpaid rent and utility bills. Jessica says she's paid more than her share.
Miss Romine, Miss Reynolds was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Since high school?
Since high school, yes, 9th grade.
And she moved into your home in December of 2003, is that right?
Yes.
And you claim she moved out, owing you money for rent and some other things. And Miss Reynolds says she owes you nothing. She paid all of the expenses that she should have paid when she was there. When she moved in December of 2003, what kind of arrangement did you have with her?
Well, in December, we still had my old roommate, and he was moving out in January 2004. So the agreement in December was for her to pay 1/3 of all utilities and the rent. And thereafter, January 2004 and on, she was supposed to pay half of everything.
Okay. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did she pay 1/3 of the rent and utilities in December?
Only 1/3 of the rent in December.
And the gas and electric.
Okay.
Which was under her name.
No, it wasn't under my name until January.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I feel that for all the food that she consumed, the toiletries, the laundry, the expenses, my SDG
I don't care what you
bill,
feel. Listen, I don't care what you feel. I don't listen to me. I
that
don't
she
care
owes me.
what you feel.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Romine says ex-roommate Jessica Reynolds owes for rent and bills.
Okay. Did she pay her half in January?
Only the rent.
How much was your share of the rent, Miss Reynolds?
$447.50.
What about February?
Yes.
When did you move out, Miss Reynolds?
Weekend of March 1st.
Is that right?
She moved out February 29th, and she was supposed to move out on March 4th. So she did not pay those 4 days of rent.
What 4 days?
She had her 3-day notice on February 4th, and she was supposed to move out on March 4th, but she moved out on February 29th, and she did not pay the 4 days of rent that she was supposed to.
So you want her to pay the rent for the 4 days into March 4th?
Yes, because my witness, Karina Valloni, was supposed to move in right after Jessica moved out, which was March 1st.
Yes.
But she came into the apartment, and it was still cluttered with Jessica's trash.
Step up. Were you taking over as roommate?
I was at the time, yes.
What's your name?
Karina Valloni.
Ms. Valloni, describe the room when you saw the room on March 1st.
Well, when I walked in, there was a gift bag, like a small gift bag with trash and broken glass in it, and there were various trash items on the floor. And in the bathroom, there was normal dirt, but beyond the dirt, there were dirty underwear in the bathtub. There were various things in the cupboards. In all of the cupboards, there were things.
Okay. When did you come back to get your stuff?
I put my 30-day notice in February 4th. I left February 4th. I paid my rent, and I went to live with my mom.
Just a second. Listen to me. When did you get out all of your things?
February 29th.
So the things that were in the room on March the 1st was discarded trash. Is that what you're telling me?
There wasn't.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
The stuff that was there was discarded trash.
In a bag.
Well, it's not just a bag. She's described to me not just a bag.
She's lying.
No, I don't think she's lying. All right, now I understand. And when did you finally clean up the room?
She said that she would come back, she had until the 4th to actually clean it up, and she never came.
I tried to come back. We talked about the bills, and I asked her to pay her part of the gas and electric. She called me an F and hung up the phone on me.
Okay.
And Miss Valloni moved in. She was living there the whole month of February. And she moved her stuff in. She moved her stuff in the weekend that I moved my stuff out.
No,
I came.
Where was she?
I would come once in a while.
I'm speaking. I can't talk over you. In what room was she staying?
In the couch, in the living room, in the room during the week.
I don't
because
care.
She lived too far.
That doesn't have anything to do with you. You had a room. You didn't empty out your room.
But I did move my stuff out the last weekend of February. And she moved her stuff in already. Okay. She was living there the 4 days.
I heard you. What else?
I'm also suing her for the return payment from Cox. When she lent me the money, I paid her back about a week later.
She lent you some money. You paid her back?
Yes.
And what was she supposed to do with the money that she was lending you?
Pay cable bill for me. She offered.
And how much was the cable bill?
The cable bill was $315.98.
And you paid that cable bill for her?
I called and I made a telecheck over the phone transfer. And Cox Cable made a mistake and they didn't debit it out of my account.
Okay, so she paid you back, so you owe her $315. I'm speaking. So you owe her $315. Is that right?
I feel that for all the food that she consumed, the toiletries, everything that I bought, the laundry, the expenses, my SDG
I don't care what you feel. Listen, I don't care what you feel. I don't listen to me. I don't care what you feel.
I have a SDG bill here that she never paid part of.
How much is that for?
It's $450.
Show it to her.
$80 deposit, which was kept, and $70 for the month of February, which I wasn't living there.
Yes?
I never disputed not to pay, and I wrote her a letter.
And how much do you owe her?
Half of the bill.
And what is that?
$100.
That doesn't, I'm sorry, but that thing says $70.
Just a second.
$80 deposit.
Listen to me. Sit down.
It doesn't say that on there.
$80 deposit. I had to pay $80 deposit to open it. I had to give an $80 deposit.
Then you should get it back.
I can't get it back because it's for the month of January and February. They took that back. And this is the remainder of what's owed from January and February. And which also carpet cleaning, I paid $55 for because when I moved in, the carpet was completely filthy and disgusting.
Listen to me. I'm not your mother. I'm not your mother, I'm not her mother, and I have absolutely no intention of being the monitor over your $15 bills. She owes you for the 4 days through March 4th. Yes. I absolutely agree that she does. And she owes you the $315 that was not debited from her account, for which you reimbursed her for your cable bill, and $35, which is your share of the utility bill, $340 judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
27-year-old waitress Lydia Hope Ewing is suing her ex-boyfriend, Mark West, for an accident he had with her car. Mark claims the accident wasn't his fault.
All rise. Yes, this is case number 17 on the calendar in the matter of Ewing versus West.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Ewing, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for an accident that he had with your car while he was driving your car with your permission, and some small utility bill from when he left the house and you were living together. Let's deal with the accident, please, and not this utility bill. All right?
Okay.
Good. How long were you living together?
In December, it was probably about 9 months.
Okay. Sir, let's start with you. When was the accident?
Approximately December, I believe.
You want to tell me what happened?
Basically, she asked me if I could drive her to work because she was running late. Dropped her off at work, was driving to a friend of mine's house, and was...
Well, why were you dropping her off at work, sir? You were borrowing her car?
She was late, and...
Does she doesn't drive?
Yes, she does, but she was late. She had asked me if I could drop her off.
Mr. West, if she's going to work and if she's late, why isn't she driving her own car?
She could put her makeup on the car on the way to work. More time to get ready.
Does that sound right to you?
No. He wanted to borrow my car. His truck wasn't legal to drive, so it wasn't registered.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Well, why didn't you say that?
That wasn't the reason I was driving her car.
Well, sir, let me tell you what you just said to me a moment ago. You said you dropped her off at work and you were going over to see a friend of yours.
Yes.
Which means you had someplace to go. And if you couldn't get there driving your truck, which you clearly wouldn't use because it wasn't legal, you needed a car that day.
I wasn't legal either, so me driving anything was not legal.
You mean you had no license?
Suspended license.
Why is that?
I was supposed to make my court hearing within 10 days. I thought it was 30.
Make what court hearing?
Court hearing I had for a ticket.
What kind of ticket?
Speeding.
Oh. See how complicated things get? Why were you letting him drive your car if he had no license?
I was under the impression that all of that was being taken care of.
What do you mean all of it was being taken care of? What does that mean?
He had more than one ticket, and I was...
I assumed he did.
I was under the impression that it was taken care of, and he had asked me not to keep bothering him about it. I didn't realize he was going to be driving my car all over town like that.
I don't care if he drives your car from here to the end of this room. Driving all over town isn't the issue. Right. Driving at all, getting behind the wheel of a car and turning on the ignition is the problem. So, Miss Ewing, you knew that he had no license.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's get to it. So you let him take you to work, go visit his friends, come back to pick you up, and you knew he had no license. I just want to get things straight. It would be so easy if I could get this without, like, pulling teeth. All right, Mr. West, so you dropped her off at work, and then you went to your friend's house. I'm waiting for the accident.
On the way to my friend's house, I was rear-ended.
Did you get out of your car?
No.
Why not?
Because I had no license.
Didn't you get out to see if maybe somebody was injured?
I was the one rear-ended.
So what? I mean, common sense would say, listen, if you were rear-ended and caused almost $3,000 worth of damage, according to her, somebody might have been hurt in the other car, even if it was their fault. Keep going. I'm getting more fascinated with this story of yours.
The damage didn't look near as bad. It looked like it just needed a new bumper, and we had agreed. He had said that he would pay for a new bumper. A month or two later, he still had put it off. And
you're driving the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's driving the car?
No, that was the last
Never
time.
drove the car after that?
No.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next month is when he moved out. We were bickering back and forth, I guess, but he was obviously not going to pay for the bumper. So I took it in to get an estimate for the bumper. The damage to the car apparently isn't something that you can see. It's damage more to the frame and underneath the car. The trunk pan is rippled. There's dents, or not dents, but dimples next to the sunroof from the impact of the accident. And
what? Dimples to the sunroof?
Well, during the collision, it'll send a shockwave through the body of the car. And
what do you do for a living?
I'm a waitress.
Waitresses can't give expert testimony on what happens during the course of a collision. Your statement, Mr. West, is that Miss Ewing was in 2 accidents since. How do you know she was in another accident with the car?
All I know is that she obtained new rims because she had damaged one, and the other was pretty much just hearsay.
Were you in subsequent accidents after this incident with Mr. West in December?
I was not in I ran over a curb, if that's considered an accident.
Well, it's not an on purpose. You didn't run over the curb on purpose.
No, no.
And you damaged the car.
Mm-hmm. Well, the tires needed to be replaced, yes, ma'am.
How many tires?
2.
That's a lot of damage. You damaged the rims as well? Is not an answer.
Yes.
Get a life, Miss Ewing.
Okay.
Let me see the estimate that you have. Replace bumper cover, $284. The rest is for roof panels with sunroof, add for clear clove glass sunroof, possible rear suspension damage, clean and delivery, $20. You needed a bumper. What kind of car do you have?
2002 Honda Accord. And if you read, I mean, the gentleman explained to me why...
Listen to me, my dear. You're lucky, quite frankly, that I would award you a penny based upon the fact that you permitted an unlicensed driver to drive your car. That's your responsibility. You're the owner of the car, yes, and you can say, no, you can't drive your car because you're irresponsible. The government says that you're not responsible enough to drive any car, and I'm not giving you my car to drive. Then you wouldn't have been in this problem with him. Second thing is, I'm not prepared to say what damage was caused by somebody rear-ending him, or whether the underneath part of the car was damaged as a result of you going over a curb that required you replacing 2 tires and 2 rims. But mostly, you had no right to let an unlicensed driver drive your car. Period. End of discussion. Okay. This court is going to award you $200. You want to have the bumper fixed? Terrific. You don't? Terrific. Are you together anymore?
Questionable.
Questionable? When you say questionable, what does that mean?
That means no.
No. Listen to me very carefully, sir. You moved out in what month?
January.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing had dinner together?
Yes.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing gone shopping together?
Yes.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing slept together?
Yes.
Miss Ewing, you get 0. Nothing. Nothing. You picked him, you deal with him. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused and we'll step out.
We don't see eye to eye when it comes to our future and where we want to go.
Conflict of interest, I guess you could say.
Apparently, if he doesn't want to get a job to pay for the damages or his bills, then therefore, yeah, we apparently don't see eye to eye.
Get to the card, Mr. Livingston.
Yes, ma'am. This was really weird. I called her.
Get to the card, Mr.
I'm
Livingston.
going to get to the card. You said that I was interested. I spent 2 nights over there.
Mr. Livingston, I'm getting older by the second, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. The next case.
All parties in the matter of Livingston versus Goebel, step forward, please.
Electrician David Livingston is suing his former friend, 29-year-old nurse's assistant Kimberly Goebel, for a series of unpaid loans. David says he met Kimberly on the internet, and she played him for a fool.
Mr. Livingston, it is your claim that the defendant, who you met on the internet and had started a relationship with, owes you for 2 loans that you made to her.
Correct.
How old are you, sir?
40.
Ever been married?
Yes.
More than once?
No.
How long?
Well, a little over a year.
Long time ago?
Yes, 13 years.
So you've been single ever since? You're looking for the right girl?
Well, one day.
She's not it.
I understand that. It was never that way, Your Honor.
No. I'm just telling you.
Right.
She's not it. When did you start communicating with Miss Goebel on the internet?
It was about June or July of last year.
And when for the first time did you meet her?
Probably about a month after we started talking.
Of 04?
Yes.
Where did you meet her?
We first met, she needed some stuff. She needed some feminine stuff. And so she asked me as a favor, as a friend, and I went and took her some feminine materials.
That's the first time you met her?
I believe so, Your Honor.
You mean you communicated on the internet and she said, I have to go get some feminine hygiene stuff, and you said, okay,
Well,
I'll come and pick
there was
you
a
up?
lot of history behind that, Your Honor. Because we had talked on the phone also. We talked on the phone also.
I don't care whether you talked on the phone. I don't care whether you blew up balloons together, whether you sent pigeons to each other's homes. Doesn't make any difference to me. It just seems very peculiar that the first time that you meet a woman, she takes you to the drugstore to buy her feminine products.
Well, you know, I do have to correct myself, Your Honor. I believe the first time we met, we went to a bar for a beer.
Now that sounds like a thing. Is that what happened to Miss Goebel?
And the whole time that we were sitting there communicating, she was on the cell phone the whole time.
Listen, Mr. Livingston, if now you're telling me that the first time you met, she sat on the phone talking to somebody, and then you gave her money sometime in the future, that doesn't make you look too smart.
Well, I understand that, Your Honor, but
okay,
it was...
good. So, August is when you met for the first time.
Correct.
Now, I'd like you to tell me when you gave her money for the first time.
It was in
The
November?
questions are going to get harder, sir. Your lawsuit involves 2 different dates that you gave her money. Correct. Those should be right up there, because the questions are going to get more complex after that.
Okay. It was approximately 1st of September.
So, within a couple of weeks of meeting her?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about that.
Well, she had always played this hard luck story. She was trying to change her life. Said she'd quit drugs. She was trying to get away from the people that she was hanging out with. And when I was down and out, somebody was there to help me. And she pretty much played me that she was a wounded duck, and she was trying to change her life. She said if she didn't get her phone bill paid, she couldn't talk to her mom, she couldn't talk to those people that were important to her. And so it didn't happen overnight. She asked me several times, and there were several times I said, Kim, quit calling me. And she would also call back and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I understand, and can we be friends? I said,
so
sure.
You gave her how much to pay for her phone bill?
I actually paid it for her. I went down to Smith's, got a money order, and mailed it in for $50 for her cell phone bill.
Okay, and the next?
The next was she bought a car.
When?
She purchased a car in February of this year.
So since August, you've been in a relationship with you. You're talking about February
Friendship.
2005.
Friendship.
So between September and February, I assume she didn't pay you back the $50.
Correct. She kept saying that there was a lawsuit. She was going to get a settlement.
There's my uncle who's coming and is going to help me get straight.
Correct.
How much money did you give her in February?
Again, it was not an overnight situation. Okay.
How much money did you give her in February?
It was a little over $220, somewhere right.
Okay, so that's what she owes you.
She owes me that, and also for her insurance. I paid her insurance for it.
How much was that?
$50.
What's next?
Well, basically what happened is that her birthday was in March, 2nd of March, and I called her. She is trying to make this into a relationship gone bad. It is not a relationship gone bad. She made a verbal promise to me, and that's all that matters. I did buy her something for her birthday. I bought her a necklace that said Friends on it. Okay, I since took it back to Walmart. But, okay, but the situation is that she is very, very good about manipulating somebody's feelings to make you think that you are her friend.
Well, that's what she did to you, sir.
That's exactly what she did to me.
No, I did not.
Who do you live with?
I'm living with my ex, which is my baby's father.
How old is your baby?
2.
Do you have only one child?
No, I have 3.
Where are the other 2?
They're living with me.
Did you ever go out with Mr. Livingston and your 3 children?
Well, he came over to my son's birthday party.
And when did the father of your youngest child come back into the picture?
Well, I was living with him at the time, and he was my friend, and he came over to the birthday party.
So you were living with your boyfriend?
Well, he's my ex. I've been separated for like a year and a half.
Did you know that he was living there, Mr. Livingston?
Yes, I did.
Did you know who he was?
Yes, I did. And what I asked her is, I said, if you guys, I said, I have never in my life heard a situation to where a girlfriend and boyfriend break up and they're living together. Why is he living there, Kim? She says, because if I don't let him live there, he is not going to let me see my child. He's going to withhold my child from me. Your Honor, I come from a situation to where my ex held my children from me, and I was sensitive to that. Okay?
Mr. Livingston.
Yes, ma'am.
It sounds to me you were a little bit smitten with the defendant, because otherwise you wouldn't have even asked that question, right? So it sounds to me as if
that is not
was...
true, Your Honor. She was trying to better her life, and she could not better her life when he wasn't working, he wasn't paying for groceries, he wasn't doing anything but sucking her dry.
Mr. Livingston, if you want to be a benevolent guy, and if you want to be a mentor, there are kids there in the Boys and Girls Club that you can mentor.
I understand.
You were mentoring Miss Goebel because you were smitten with her.
No, ma'am, that's not true.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second, sir.
I also got a call from her ex, and he basically said, what kind of trouble do you want with me? And I said, you know what, this is none of your business. If you call here again, I'm going to file suit on you. He called right back, and he said, the disciples are going to be after you.
Mr.
Okay?
Livingston,
So,
all very interesting, sir.
thank you, Your Honor.
Fascinating. Can I see the card that you are dying to show me, Bird? Would you get that card for me, please?
Sure.
May I explain that card, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, this card was...
Yes, now you can explain this love card.
Thank you, Your Honor. She had asked me a lot of times to fix her car. I said I could not financially do it. When I could finally do it, I said, is he leaving tomorrow? And she said, yes. I said, well, that would be a better environment, because I didn't like the guy. I didn't like him around. He was an idiot. He was aggressive, everything else. So anyway, so I felt better working by myself without having him around. Not because I was closer to her, but because it was a better environment for me. Because he's a violent
Get to the card, Mr. Livingston.
Yes, ma'am. So she calls me and says, I want a relationship with you. I said, what are you talking about? You know, that's quote, end quote, I want a relationship with you, Dave. And I said, you know what, you don't have to do this, Kim. I'm your friend. I'm going to fix your car regardless. You don't have to say that.
So?
So I was out of town for 2 days. I got her that birthday present, that $40 friendship necklace. And when I came back, all of a sudden, I mean, this was really weird. I called her.
Could you give me the
Yes.
Get to the card,
I'm going to
Mr.
get to the card,
Livingston.
ma'am.
It says I love you.
I bought her the
always
card
wanna be
because
with you.
when I got back from out of town, we had a fight. Because now understand, I had spent 2 nights over there. You said that I was interested in her. I spent 2 nights over there, and I didn't lay a hand on her. Okay. The card was given to her because there was an interest there. Okay, but
Mr. Livingston.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
I'm getting older by the second, sir. Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Livingston.
Yes, Your Honor.
The fact that she said to you, I want a relationship with you, doesn't answer the question. I said to you, were you smitten with her? You said no.
I was not.
But I'm speaking.
Yes,
You
Your
said no. You said I cared about her because she was a human being, and people helped me when I was trying to turn my life around, and I was trying to help her. It had nothing to do with a romantic feeling. So the fact that, listen to me very carefully, try to put on your listening ears.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact that she says to you, I want a relationship with you, your response is, Kim, I don't feel that way about you. I want to be your friend and help you because I'm a human being, and from one human being to another, I have no romantic interest in you at all. The fact that she said to you, I want a relationship with you, doesn't mean you send her a love letter. Unless you are smitten with her, Mr. Livingston. Now, you can talk until you're blue in the face,
Right.
until I'm tall and you're short, but that's the truth of the matter.
Then, Your Honor.
No, cross it off. If you're looking for a mate, sir, she is not it. Put a period. It's over. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well.
Your Honor,
Goodbye.
I can recover.
Good luck. Have a happy life. Cross it off. It's money down the sewer. It's over. Goodbye. Not alone.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
55-year-old promoter Brian Manthorn is suing former client, surgical admitter Joanne Morante, for the unpaid balance on a ski weekend. Joanne says the trip was a disaster and she's not paying. She is countersuing for pain and suffering.
Now, this is case number 11 on the calendar in the matter of Manthorn versus Morante. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Manthorn, you are an event planner, according to what I read in your complaint.
Yes, Your Honor.
You plan different kinds of trips.
I'm actually a club promoter, not an event coordinator.
Well, but you were planning trips.
Yes.
This particular event was a trip.
Yes.
Mrs. Morante wanted to plan a weekend with some friends, and she answered your ad. Your ad was for what kind of a weekend, Miss Morante?
Freestyle ski trip.
What does that mean?
Freestyle is a type of music, like classical or disco. It's a certain type of music.
Would somebody my age like that kind of music?
Not at all.
You answered that very fast, Miss Morante. Do you know what freestyle music is?
I have no idea.
Can you hum something in freestyle?
No, I don't really want to.
Okay. Anyway, and that was the ad that you placed, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you signed up, you gave them a deposit?
Correct.
And how much was the deposit?
$250, $50 per girl. There were 5 girls.
2 days? Saturday,
yes,
Sunday?
From Friday night arrival, Sunday morning departure.
So 2 nights?
Correct.
Okay. And she paid you?
Yes, she did.
She went on the weekend eventually, even though the date was changed.
The ski trip that I had promoted for was canceled. The date wasn't changed. It was the freestyle event was canceled for that weekend.
That I never knew about until now, today.
That was canceled.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you planned something else. Why was that canceled?
Okay, it was canceled due to the lack of people. We couldn't get people to go on the ski trip weekend.
Because nobody knows what it is. So then you planned something else.
No. What I did, I put them on a different ski trip for the following weekend.
Without our knowledge.
Well, just a second. You planned something else for them.
I gave an alternative. I gave them 2 alternatives. I gave them, alternative number 1 was give them their deposit of $250 back.
That's a lie.
Shh. Or I could put them on the second week,
Just a second. Shh, listen to me. She gave you the $250.
She mailed it to me, the deposit of $250.
Okay. So you had her address.
Yes, I did.
Can I see the letter that you sent her indicating that you were canceling the freestyle weekend, but you were giving her 2 options? Can I see that letter?
There was no letter.
That's all I wanted.
Thank you.
There was no letter. But one way or another, you got on this second weekend that they had planned, you and 4 friends.
Me and 3 other girls.
You and 3 other girls.
One was soon to be my sister-in-law.
Please, I don't need that information.
Okay.
I have a very, very busy day today. And you say it was a trip from hell.
It was a disaster.
Can I see the ad for the weekend?
The original that I picked up?
The original.
This is the original.
The original? That's the only one that he's got? Because...
No, I received the second one.
Oh, you did receive it?
At the hotel.
Oh, okay. Not before you went?
Not before I went.
Okay. So tell me, now this looks like a very nice promotion.
Yes.
This is what you sent out, right?
Yes, I was still promoting for that, yes.
Good. And what you're suing for, sir, is she stopped payment on the $940.
Yes, she did, and I have the check right here.
I believe you. She doesn't deny it. She says that it was a disaster. So I'm going to hear her. Okay. Tell me why it was a disaster.
Okay. Prior to leaving for the trip, Brian changed the dates on us 1 week in advance.
You went. You didn't have to go.
Okay.
You went.
We went to the bus location with him saying that he was going to meet us there Friday evening at about 6 p.m. with about 4 or 5 buses waiting to hurl 500 people up to this freestyle music weekend. There's no Brian. There's only 2 buses. We were not on any kind of list, my name or any of the girls that were with me, to get on the bus. We had to sit there and talk to people that did not know who we were.
So you first had a problem with the organization.
Right.
You finally got on a bus.
We finally got on a bus. The minute we sat down, we smelled marijuana. We refused to sit on a bus with marijuana for our health reasons, and we weren't planning this kind of ghetto weekend. We were trying to go away to have a nice weekend trip. And this was not something that I would ever be interested in.
Okay.
So we complained. They opened up the vent on the bus and sprayed air freshener. I walked right off the bus with the 3 girls.
Okay.
Called my husband, called Brian. He did not pick up his cell phone. He didn't show up.
What did you do next?
I complained to the bus drivers. I complained to the other promoters who never heard of me, who didn't even know who Brian was, and they told us to
get on another bus?
They made us get on another bus, correct.
Was that bus okay?
That bus had a lot of drinking and cursing. It was better than the marijuana, but it was not acceptable once we were en route.
Did you get to where you were going?
We did, without being able to use the bathroom, all 3 girls.
When you got to where you were going, tell me about the accommodations that you had.
We walked in. People from the first bus were mimicking, saying things to us because we complained about the pot smoking. They were saying we were troublemakers.
I'm not interested in what they were saying about you. I'm interested in the accommodations.
Okay, well, the accommodations was a room that, you know, had 2 double beds. We were, you know, all 4 girls staying in the same room together.
Did you stay?
We stayed in the hotel room with the doors locked, towels under the door because of the marijuana.
You stayed in the hotel?
Correct, we did.
Why didn't you go home?
I had no way of getting home. He came and picked me up, and he cut his bachelor party short because he was in Atlantic City with my brother and the rest of the guys. And he had to drive over 3 hours to come pick me up, and we had to go home with him squished like sardines in a truck, 4 girls and suitcases and everything, because we refused to get back on the bus with the people that was ghetto that we would not want to be around. Going home another 3 hours. We were not allowed to use the bathroom in the bus unless we took alcohol shots from strangers. It's ridiculous.
Listen to me. I don't understand.
You find it funny. I don't think it's funny.
Miss Moranti, listen to me.
You weren't there.
Miss Moranti, listen to me. I don't understand why you would stay in the hotel.
Well, there was.
She's lying, Your Honor.
I'm lying? You weren't even there.
No.
Okay?
Mr. Mann, listen, if you can't behave yourself, that's not going to bode well for your success in this case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you supposed to be on this trip, Mr. Mann?
I was going, originally I was going to go, but I'm in the National Guard, and I had drill that weekend.
Show me. I believe you're in the National Guard. Show me that you were on a drill that weekend.
My drill assembly schedule was at home. But I let Joanne know and I let Liz know.
No, you did not.
Just a second. Did you tell them before you took their money that you weren't going to be there?
I told them when they came to make the final payment that I wasn't going to be there.
That's a lie. I never made final payment.
Just a second.
She never made final payment with me. Liz came to my place of business and was going to make final payment. And that's when I let them know that the ski trip was canceled. And I would give them 2 options. Option number 1, I'll give them back the deposit.
How much profit did you make on this, sir?
I made $50 off each girl. So I made $200.
And you were the subcontractor?
I was the sub-promoter, yes.
Because you say, I'll get a certain number of bodies for you to go.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's how it works, yes.
Did you explain that to Miss Moranti, that you were not promoting this, that you were
I told her I was a sub-promoter. The main promoter's on top of the flyer.
And he wasn't there. It was a different company.
Just a second. All I want to know is, did you tell Miss Moranti that this was not something that you were organizing and promoting?
Yes.
You were merely selling that. Is that right?
Yes.
No, he told me he was a promoter, and his phone number's on that card.
If you're going to be fixed with what's in your head and not listen to my question, you're not helping yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear it or understand.
Because you're not listening, you have to put on your listening ears.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have a counterclaim for your pain and suffering. And right now, what you're being to me is a pain. And I'm suffering.
And later today.
What a con artist. I mean, does she think that we're stupid, that she's going to be able to resolve this issue with those kind of answers?
Hope springs eternal.
Sit down, April.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Promoter Brian Manthorn says former client Joanne Morante owes for the balance on a weekend ski trip. Joanne says the trip was unsafe.
Did the plaintiff ever tell you that he was not in charge of promoting this event?
No, he didn't.
Listening ears, that somebody else was in charge of promoting this event, and all he was doing was providing bodies at $50 a person.
No, he didn't.
Of course not. Don't fib to me, sir.
Your Honor.
Now, listen to me. Did you tell her that this was not your gig, that you didn't know anything about it, but that you were getting $50 a head for every person that you brought in?
I didn't tell her what I was getting. I told her that I was sub-promoting. Yes, I did. I didn't tell her that I was
You're a
tell her what I was
Swiftie.
making.
I don't believe you. Did he tell you that?
No.
Of course not. I don't believe you. That's a fib.
Thank you.
Well, Your Honor, I also have a tape. She's claiming something about the bus ride. I also have a tape that Liz left on my voicemail message about the bus ride. Can I play it?
Absolutely.
Saved voice message.
Hey, what's up? Just wanted to call you that,
Is that Liz?
I was a bit happy they changed us bus, which is much better than what we were before. And what I was trying to tell you before was, like, it was really, really ghetto, and, like, I don't know, it just felt like weed and stuff, which was, like, I don't know. But, now they changed us to another bus, so much better, so we're, like, more happier. So if anything, I'll talk to you. All right, bye.
That's exactly what she said.
Yes, and that was
She
before.
said that the second bus. She said the second bus. She had to drink and everything like that.
That's correct. To use the bathroom.
She said the second bus was better. Why should she have to tolerate the first bus?
Absolutely. I agree with her 100%.
Good. Then you get nothing. Stick with what you know, sir. Sounds to me like she had a horror show of a weekend. It was so bad that she wouldn't return on the bus back home, and she asked her husband, who will vouch for that, I assume, to cut his weekend short, to come and pick up the 4 girls because they were so put off by what was going on with the bus that they didn't want to take the bus home. Why do you think she would do that if it wasn't miserable?
Because she calls me a con artist.
You are. You are.
Okay, if I'm such a con artist,
you are. You
if I'm such a,
you are.
Your Honor, if I'm such a con artist, then when she wrote me these checks, I would have cashed them the day of.
That's your problem.
I never did that.
Tell her when to cash the checks.
Absolutely, she
Your
did.
counterclaim's dismissed.
She absolutely did. She said.
Do you understand?
I guess.
You guess. You know why?
No.
Very easy. Because you have a counterclaim for your pain and suffering. And right now, what you're being to me is a pain. And I'm suffering. Because I already told you that this is a court. And in a court, when I look at you, you testified he was quiet. So your counterclaim is dismissed. That's your punishment.
It's a big punishment.
It is. It absolutely is. So you got $250 deposit. That check went through. Is that right?
Yes, it went through.
You got $50 a person for how many people?
For 4 people.
That's $200. That's $450. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money are you out?
I'm out $940 minus $200.
That's right.
That'd be 7.
That's what you're out. Don't do it again. Stick with what you know. If you con somebody into thinking that they're going to have a great weekend and they have a miserable weekend, there has to be consequences. That's your consequence, $750. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Brian's a con artist. He got what he deserved.
Outrage that somebody can pay for something, spend the whole entire weekend, and still get away with not paying for it.
It was just horrible. It was terrible. There was marijuana going on.
Marijuana use is illegal. She had the choice to get off that bus.
It was out of control, ghetto, something that I would never take part of.
When she seen that it was so ghetto, quote unquote, she could have left. She chose to keep going.
He deceived me from the beginning.
Stay away from prissy girls like that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Liebhardt versus Malone. Step forward.
19-year-old student Angela Liebhardt is suing her ex-boyfriend, automotive technician Michael Malone, for the return of her furniture and for throwing away her computer. Michael says the computer had a virus.
Ms. Liebhardt, you and the defendant lived together for a brief period of time and claimed that when you moved out, you left some of your stuff there for the defendant to store. You don't want it back anymore. And then there was a computer that Mr. Malone says he got tired of storing and it was broken anyway, so he threw it out. Okay. When did you meet him?
I met him in December of '03.
Where?
At a bar that a friend of mine owns.
How soon did you move in with him?
It was almost immediately.
What does that mean? That mean that night, the next day?
It was probably about a week or so.
What made you make such a precipitous move?
It was an error in judgment.
Okay. What did you bring with you?
I brought my bed with me. Things were given to me during the relationship. The computer was given to me approximately a month before we broke up.
By whom?
My grandmother.
Was it a new computer?
Yes, brand new.
How old were you when you moved in with him?
18.
How old are you?
29.
29. All right. When you moved out in June?
Yep.
Under what circumstances?
He told me to leave.
Did he say why?
We were done.
You weren't getting along anymore?
Yeah.
Why did you leave the computer?
I was leaving town for a few days, and I asked him if it was okay if I left my stuff there for a few days. He told me it was all right. I could leave it there as long as I needed, and I've attempted to get it back on numerous occasions, and he's never there.
Well, after you left in June, when was the first time that you attempted to get your computer and furniture back?
It was 3 days after I moved out.
Tell me what you did.
I called him up, and he wasn't home, and I told him that that's when I would be back in town, is in 3 days.
So you called him up, he wasn't home?
Yes.
So, what'd you do next?
I waited a few days and called him again.
And did you speak to him?
I made an appointment to go and get my stuff with him.
So that was about, let's say, a week later, you made an appointment to go and get your stuff?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Are you making it up as you're going along, or is that the truth as you remember it?
Angela Liebhardt says ex-boyfriend Michael Malone threw away her computer. Michael says the computer was junk.
Step up. What is your last name?
Renee Williams.
Okay. Miss Williams, when for the first time did you contact Mr. Malone?
I started attempting to call him in October.
Did you ever speak to him?
There was a couple times. One time we set a time to meet. At that time he had...
To meet To do what?
So that I could get Angela's stuff for her.
What furniture is there?
There is like a china cabinet and like a hutch type thing, like a buffet.
Something that's wooden?
Yes, 2 wooden things.
Okay. Where are her 2 wooden chests that she has?
They're in a back room at my house.
Okay, you have no objection if she comes and gets those, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. 5 days from today, you may bring a peace officer if you wish. There'll be an order. Those 2 items are to be in the front of the house. Do you understand?
Yes.
5 days from today, 9 a.m. You'll get a formal order of that. With regard to the computer, sir, you're going to have to convince me why you don't owe her $1,073.67 for the computer.
At first, I had no problem with them getting the computer. Then the computer broke, and we were getting ready to move, and it was junk to me. I've had them say, you can come get it, you can do whatever.
Well, at that point, it was junk, sir, because if you were using it, and if it broke while you were using it, you're responsible for it.
He didn't say that we could come get it. First, he told her that it was at his mom's. Then his wife told me that it was stolen, and now he's saying that it's junk.
Step up. Your name?
April Malone.
April? Mm-hmm. Did you ever tell Miss Williams that the computer was stolen?
Yes, that's what I had known that it was. I didn't know that.
What do you mean you had known? That's what you had known that it was. Explain that to me.
I was told that it was stolen. I didn't know that it was broken.
Who told you that it was stolen?
Some of his family members.
What about him? You didn't ask him?
No.
You didn't say to your husband what happened to you? His family members told you it was stolen? April, look at me. She says to you, where's the computer? You say to her it's stolen.
I don't know anything about the computer. To my knowledge, I knew it was stolen.
Well, just a second. You're living with your husband, right, April?
Yes.
So it had to be your husband that told you it was stolen.
I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this relationship.
Are you listening to what I'm saying? I'm not asking you about relationship. Pay careful attention. You don't get off the hook, because I shake it until I get the truth. That if you told her the computer is stolen, you got that from your husband.
I'm not sure who I got it from. I tried resolving this problem. I offered to claim it on our home insurance policy. I called them, and I had called my father-in-law because I did not know who the insurance policy was through. I still don't.
So what did you do? You called your father-in-law and said, I want to know who our insurance carrier is, right?
Yes, I tried that.
What do you mean you tried? So did you get an answer?
No, I did not.
Why didn't you get an answer? They don't want to talk to you?
My father-in-law is only home like once a week. He travels.
God. What a con artist. I mean, does she think that we're stupid, that she's going to be able to resolve this issue with those kind of answers?
Hope springs eternal.
Sit down, April. Does it embarrass you to stand up in front of 10 million people and appear to be so foolish?
No.
How many children?
What I could do.
Let me ask you a question. How many children do you have?
I don't have any children.
Try keeping it that way.
I plan on it.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,073.67. 5 days from today, you can go get your property. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Landscaper Dan Quine is suing his former employee, sales rep Penny Pupo, for the value of stolen property. Penny is countersuing for defamation of character.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 25 on the calendar in the matter of Quine versus Pupo. Parties have been sworn in.
Mr. Quine, according to your complaint, you knew the defendant, and at some point you hired her to do some lawn work for your business.
Yes, I did.
And then a dispute arose with regard to her compensation.
Yes.
So there was some bad blood. Subsequently, your home was burglarized.
Yes, it was.
When was your home burglarized?
That was August 9th.
And it is your belief that Miss Pupo was responsible for the burglary, either herself or herself in conjunction with others. And you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $4,000. The stuff that was taken from your home was in excess of that, but you want $4,000 for the value of the property that was taken and not recovered. Now, Ms. Pupo says that you still owe her some money from this weeding job that she did a while back, but she is really suing you for defamation because she says that you went around town telling people that she was a thief. That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
Let's not get into, please, the wages, because I'm really not interested in the wages from a year ago, whether it's $70 or $100 for weeding the property. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is the dispute over the wages. Now, when did that take place, Mr. Quine?
The dispute happened, I hired her to do the weeding on one house, okay? That job paid 6 hours to do the weeding and the shrub trimming.
Okay.
Okay.
So that whatever she did work, and you gave her money. How much did you give her?
I gave her $70 after she worked 6 hours.
Just a minute. You gave her $70, and
Yes.
she said she wanted how much?
She wanted $210.
And that was somewhere around the end of July.
Yes.
Is that the last you heard from her?
Absolutely not. She called me 6 to 10 times a day, every single day.
Between the time the job was completed and...
Until the robbery in my house.
And what were these conversations like?
I want money. I want money. You promised me you'd pay me money. And I told her I paid you over and above what I owed you.
Tell me about the break-in to your home.
I was working late, and she had called so many times. All of a sudden, Saturday, the phone calls stopped. I get home, my house is robbed.
What do you find in the house?
Destroyed. All my electronics were gone.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Is this the detective that responded to the scene?
This is Detective Gunderson, who is with the Post Falls.
You didn't listen to my question. What? I said, is this the detective who responded to the scene on the 9th of August?
Yes.
Okay, you can step up, sir. Detective, with what law enforcement authority are you affiliated, sir?
The Post Falls Police Department.
And how long have you been employed by them?
Approximately 17 years.
Were you assigned this case?
I was. It was a subsequent investigation. Actually, an officer did respond, took a
But not you?
But not me, no. I
so
handled the follow-up of the case after the fact. I didn't actually respond to the home.
Okay. Did anything in that subsequent investigation lead you to believe that the defendant was somehow involved in this burglary?
Yes, it did. I served a search warrant on the house where she was residing.
And what prompted you to serve a search warrant at that location?
It was another investigation, not this one. And once I got into the house...
It was another investigation for what?
It was involving fraud and drugs.
Now, do you remember on what date you executed this search warrant?
Yes, it was December 22nd.
And who was at that location?
Penny was there.
Penny, the defendant, Ms.
Yes, Penny, the defendant.
Did you know
her
before?
I had spoke to her before, yes.
In what context?
I had questioned her about Mr. Quine's property previous to that, asked her if she would talk to us about the burglary of his property, things like that.
And when you got to the house and she was there,
yes,
had you given her any notice that you were coming?
No.
And you found what?
A DeWalt drill, a Panasonic telephone, Pioneer faceplate to a stereo that were all items that I recalled were reported stolen by Mr. Quine.
And did it subsequently turn out that those items did in fact belong to him?
Yes, he identified them.
Did Ms. Pupo offer any explanation of how those items serendipitously appeared in a home where she was living?
No, she wouldn't talk about it.
Was she arrested?
Yes.
And what happened to that arrest?
She was charged with possessing the stolen property.
Right.
That's still a pending case.
It is?
Yes.
Is that case still pending?
No, they've dropped those charges, Your Honor.
Let me see.
This is all I'm being charged with now.
Well, I am not certain, madam, that the question of possession of stolen property has been resolved. So I am not going to ask you whether or not you stole his property. I have your answer, which is sworn to. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And your answer states, I was living with my parents and ran into an old, friend who asked me to watch his home while he went into prison. December 22nd, this home was raided by a task force and a few of Dan's belongings were recovered. That's what you say. I'm not asking you any questions, Ms. Pupo, because I don't necessarily believe that those issues will or will not be raised in your current indictment of possession of methamphetamines, which, according to this, you are still being charged with as a result of the raid of December 22nd.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The statistical probability of his stolen property ending up in a house where she was acting as a house sitter is really, really big.
And later today,
I borrowed the sewing machine because we had made a quilt at church, and I called over and I asked Fallon, hey Fallon, how you doing? Is Cheryl there? And then
listen to me. Don't shake your head because you know nothing about what happened.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dan Quine says former employee Penny Pupo burglarized his home. Penny is denying the charge.
How many people reside in your town, sir?
Approximately 20,000.
So the statistical probability of the stolen items, considering the nexus between these two people, the relationship between these two people, the statistical probability of his stolen property ending up in a house where she was acting as a house sitter is really, really big.
Yes.
Right? That's your case.
Yep.
He doesn't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you stole this property. I find that by the required quantum of proof in a civil proceeding, which is proof by a preponderance of the evidence that either you or your friend who's in jail or somebody else who you importuned stole the property, and I'm awarding him $4,000 on his claim. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Sir, stand up. Tell me your name.
Mike Ollinger.
Take your hands out of your pockets, Mr. Ollinger. Are you prepared to testify that at some time subsequent to December 22nd or sometime after August 9th,
Yeah, it was in the fall.
you heard this gentleman,
Yep.
Mr. Quine, tell people that Miss Pupo was a thief?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
She is a thief.
Okay.
She is a thief. And
Okay.
the truth is an absolute defense to a charge of defamation. She or others acting on her behalf stole his property. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand.
Good. Case counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Stole everything out of my house, every electronic I had.
Wouldn't sleep with him. That's what the bottom line is.
There was no sexual nothing with that girl. All right, there was, never has been, and she knows it.
Maybe you should come to work with a thong on. I'll pay your wages if you put out.
Her lies are just carrying on and on and on.
How many people do you have in your city? If someone was talking about you, I'm sure it would bother you too.
She's a drug addict, and she got caught.
Anybody that knows her knows that that isn't the case. So
I'll tell you what, Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene area is going to know all about her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Frazier versus Lovelace. Step forward, please.
Computer operator Cheryl Frazier is suing her former friend, daycare owner Felicia Lovelace, for stealing her sewing machine. Felicia says she bought the machine from Cheryl's daughter.
Miss Frazier, it is your claim that 3.5 years ago, the defendant borrowed a sewing machine of yours, an old sewing machine.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't borrow it from you directly.
No, ma'am, she didn't.
She borrowed it, according to you, from your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't return it.
No, ma'am.
So you just woke up and found out that the sewing machine wasn't there. You want from her $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
$3,000. The sewing machine was worth a couple of $100 maybe, but you want the rest of the money because you say that because you didn't have the sewing machine, you weren't able to make money. And the other $2,800. What kind of work do you do?
Well, I have a job as a computer operator, but I have a business where I sew lingerie.
Weren't you missing this sewing machine? If that's your business?
Well, I have quite a few, Your Honor. You
have quite a few what?
Sewing machines.
How many do you have?
I have 4 antiques. I have a $4,000 embroidery machine, and then I have some ones that I bought used.
When did you realize that this sewing machine was missing?
It was the latter part of November 2003.
So what did you do?
Well, I looked around the house for it.
Oh, you didn't find it. So
no, I didn't.
Go ahead. Keep going.
And
I'm very unsympathetic with this.
Okay, I understand.
This is a little nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
I understand. I called my daughter up, and I asked her about it.
Step up. Name?
Fallon Frazier.
Ms. Frazier, tell me how the defendant got possession of the sewing machine.
I think I was like a junior in I was a junior in high school, and she called one day and she asked for my mother at home, and I told her no. And then she asked me if I had a sewing machine, and I said yes, and she asked if she could borrow, and I told her yes. She said she was going to return it the next day.
You gave her your sewing machine. It wasn't your mother's sewing machine, it was yours.
Yes.
Okay, good. And what happened the next day?
The next day I called her, and she said she would bring it by, and she never came by.
And what happened the day after that?
The day after that, I didn't call her.
And the day after that?
I didn't call her until about like some months later.
And when you called her some months later, what did she say to you?
She said she was going to bring it by.
And she didn't bring it back?
No, she didn't.
Yeah. And if you were missing it and she borrowed it and put your hand down. If you were missing it and she had borrowed it, you would have told your mother, Felicia borrowed my sewing machine, Mom. She hasn't returned it and I need it. But you never told your mother.
No, ma'am.
Not until just listen to me, not until 3 years later. Right?
Right.
Huh?
Right.
Good. Now you want to tell me about the sewing machine?
It wasn't 3 years. It was like 5 years. It was in 1999. I was expecting a child, and I borrowed the sewing machine because we had made a quilt at church. And I called over and I asked Fallon, hey Fallon, how you doing? Is Cheryl there? And she said no. And I said, well, I was trying to borrow a sewing machine. I was going to see if she'll let me use her sewing machine to sew around the quilt. And she said, well, I got one. And she said, well, you can use that one. And I said, well, okay. And then she said, well, it's pretty old. I don't even know if it works anymore. And then I said, well, can I get it and see if it works? And then
listen to me. Don't shake your head because you know nothing about what happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Fallon never called me back for that sewing machine. She said she didn't even want it because it wasn't no good.
Listen to me. Your story changed a little bit from the answer that you wrote.
She never offered me money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Frazier says former friend Felicia Lovelace owes for the return of an expensive sewing machine. Felicia claims Cheryl's daughter sold her the machine.
Listen to me. You know nothing about what happened between your daughter and this lady, except what your daughter tells you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And I said, well, can I get it? And she said, well, yeah, you can get it. And she said, it's in the basement. I don't feel like going down there and get it. I said, well, Fallon, I'll give you $30 if you go down there and get it. And she said, well, okay. I said, well, we're on our way over there to get it. And then she said, okay. So we got over there. Fallon, we blew the horn, and Fallon was at the door. And she brought the sewing. I went up to the porch, and she came out with the sewing machine. I got the sewing machine. Fallon never called me back for that sewing machine because she said she didn't even want it because it wasn't no good.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Miss Lovelace, your story changed a little bit from the answer that you wrote. What you just told me was, if you go downstairs to the basement, I'll give you $30. That's what you told me.
Okay.
She never offered me money.
Which means, for her trouble of going downstairs, and you called and asked if you could borrow a sewing machine.
Right.
So you borrowed this sewing machine, and you gave her $30 for the trouble of going down, according to you, of getting the sewing machine. Stop shaking your head.
$30.
Of going down and getting the sewing machine. Then you had to return it. Why didn't you return it?
Well, I should have, but I did.
Fine. Then you're responsible for it. Because she's underage, she can't give away something that clearly was not necessarily hers, might have been her mother's, I'm not exactly sure. She said it was hers. I have an old one, according to you, but clearly you borrowed it, you kept it for a long period of time. You don't still have it, according to you.
No.
Oh. And clearly this was an old sewing machine that Miss Frazier never even missed in, you say, since 1999. Maybe 1999, maybe 2000. I don't know what it is. I mean, the sewing machine isn't worth much. Wasn't worth much when you got it in 1999. Certainly wasn't worth much in 2003 by the time you woke up and found out that it wasn't there. How much do you think, Miss Frazier, this was worth when it was borrowed?
I had just bought the sewing machine.
I don't believe that. No. Listen to me.
I bought it used. Okay. I bought it used, and
Miss Frazier, listen to me.
Okay.
I don't believe that your daughter gave away a machine that you had just purchased, whether you just purchased it new or used. I don't believe that you had just purchased it. When did you buy it, and how much did you pay?
I bought it in August of 1999. I paid $279. You would have to understand my daughter, Your Honor. My daughter, anything, we have an issue of mine versus hers. I had a brand new sewing machine that I had purchased, and I went and bought that used to keep her from using my brand new sewing machine. Okay, she still was using my sewing machine.
You said that you had loads of sewing machines.
I do, but she only wants to use whatever I use to sew with, Your Honor.
Not a major deal. You lived without the sewing machine for either 3.5 years or 5 years. Miss Lovelace absolutely should have returned the sewing machine. It was a loan. The fact that she forgot about it, put it in her basement, there was a flood, she got rid of it, that doesn't excuse the fact that she borrowed it and she should have returned it. You are not entitled to $2,800 for the lost value of lost earnings that you could have made from this sewing machine were it available for use, because that is nonsense. You're entitled to but probably is fair, reasonable value of what a sewing machine might cost. And I have no idea what a used sewing machine costs. I'll take a look at the bill. Not that I necessarily believe that that's the sewing machine, but I just want to take a look at it. Now, Miss Lovelace, did you use the sewing machine to complete your project?
No, because it didn't work when I got it. And then when Cheryl called me about the sewing machine, I told her it didn't work. And she said, well, wasn't nothing wrong with it, but the tension had to be straightened out. Oh. That's what she said.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
You may step out.
26-year-old collections agency owner, Lori Moore, is suing auto finance manager Anna O'Neill Workman for the attempted repossession of her 96 Geo tracker. Neil is countersuing for the unpaid balance and for intentionally damaging the vehicle.
Yeah, this is case number 146 on the calendar in the matter of Moore versus World Auto Wholesaler. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Ms. Moore, you purchased a used car from the defendant's company.
Correct.
When did you purchase that car?
That was purchased on October 10th of 2003.
And it is your claim that you suffered substantial damage.
Yes, ma'am.
You lost pets, you had aggravation, they harassed you because you didn't pay for the car.
Correct.
And they tried to repossess it. So you want to be compensated to the tune of $3,800.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Workman says that they did try to repossess their car because you stopped paying for it, and they are counterclaiming because Mr. Workman says that you promised them that if they repossessed the car, you were going to get it back in pieces, and you kept your word. So you bought the car on October 10th, 2003, and what did you pay for this car?
I'm not sure. I don't have a copy of the contract that I signed.
Why not?
They didn't give me one. I went in by myself. I traded my vehicle.
Miss Moore, if what you're telling me is that you purchased this car and you didn't get a copy of the contract, and you're a grown-up lady and you didn't say, can I have a copy of the contract? I don't believe you.
That's correct. I didn't.
I just want to know what you want me to believe, that's all. Can I see a copy of the contract, please? Mr. Workman, how long have you been in business?
Our corporation's been in business for 2 years.
Okay, so you bought this car and the amount of the contract was $4,894 and payments of $120 bi-weekly for 37.5 payments. And the first payment was due on November the 22nd, 2003, giving you a little more than a month to start making payments. Now, did you take the car on October 10th?
Yes, I did.
And you drove it from his business to your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you drive it until the 22nd of November?
On November the 6th, I had a car accident.
With this car?
Yes, I did.
And what happened to the car?
I accidentally pulled out into another vehicle. It did some damage to the radiator. On November the 7th, I called to tell him that I was going to be late.
Just a second. You called to tell him you were going to be late with what?
My payments.
Why?
Because I was making them early. I had already made a $200 payment.
When did you make a $200 payment?
It was shortly after I got it. He called them a pickup payment.
What does that mean?
Pickup payments, Your Honor, is basically what covers the taxes, the fees for their tag, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. You made a payment of $200 when?
I don't have that date. I'm sorry.
When?
October the 18th.
So on 10/18, you made a $200 payment. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then you had a month to make your first payment.
Right.
No, Your Honor. What it is, she has 4 straight pickup payments.
Mr. Workman, do you have another agreement that she signed?
It's like a pickup payment schedule.
Can I see that, please? Okay, so she did sign a second contract, and the second contract says that there are 4 of these sort of pickup payments that cover taxes, license plate, title, and miscellaneous fees, which, Mr. Workman, I wouldn't be happy with this. You understand that? Because there's a lot of who shot John. You understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
This is sort of outrageous, and you understand what I mean when I say that this is hokum?
We do that, Your Honor, because a lot of times they don't have the down payment plus for the taxes and title.
Listen to me. What are miscellaneous fees? You got $400 there.
We always charge what they call a delivery fee.
What does that mean, delivery fee?
It's prep fees, Your Honor.
It's baloney. It's baloney. I just want you to know that I know it's baloney.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you know it's baloney. All right, but you got the car. Now, you called him up, according to you, and said, I'm going to be late with my payments. He's not your brother, your father, your husband, your best friend. He doesn't give a rat's behind whether or not you have problems. You bought a car, you took his car worth $5,000, and before you know it, lickety-split, you're not making payments. You pay $200, and then you say, Now, after you paid the initial $200 on the 18th of October, Miss Moore,
yes, ma'am.
And I want you to be a crybaby, after you made the $200 payment, the pickup payment...
2 pickup payments.
Of how much?
$200 a piece.
Okay, so you paid a total of $400?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you make the second $200 payment?
It was, I believe, a week or 2 after. I'm sorry, I don't
When did you make the second $200 payment?
She only made 2 payments, Your Honor. That was the 18th, and the following week after that.
So
she stopped making payments on the afternoon.
I didn't ask anything else. I said, when did she make the second payment? She made the second payment on or about the 25th of October, a week later. Now, after the 25th of October, when did you make your next payment?
I hadn't made another payment on it.
Fine. When was the first time that they tried to repossess the car?
On December the 2nd.
Okay. So you missed the payment that was due on November 22nd.
Yes, ma'am.
And 2 weeks later, they tried to repossess the car. Tell me how they tried to do that.
I was getting out of the shower. I heard a noise. I looked out my front window and saw a white car. I hurried, got dressed, ran outside, and saw Mr. Rios.
This gentleman right here?
Yes, coming around the back. I said...
Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, step up.
I said, excuse me, can I help you? I didn't know who he was. He said, I'm here to take the vehicle. I said, no, you're not. Why I had said that was I had talked to Neil. He said it wouldn't be a problem. So I was kind of confused because Neil had told me it was okay to see Mr. Rios there.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am. She told me she was having financial troubles, okay?
And what'd you say?
And I told her we need a payment in here as soon as possible.
Okay. That sounds more logical than if you say, well, I forgive you, you can make a payment when you can. We need the payment here as soon as possible. Is that the last conversation you had with her?
No, ma'am.
Did you call her back and say, listen, I've given you an extra week or so?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Right then and there, I knew she was going to default on the loan.
Well, what made you think you have a Ouija board?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I took your car. I didn't pay for it.
Yes.
And unless you release the car so that we get the car for free, we're going to sue you. That comes under the category of major chutzpah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lori Moore says auto finance manager Neil Workman owes for the attempted repossession of her 96 Geo Tracker. Neil says Lori returned the vehicle in shambles.
Now, she did in fact call you, sir, and say, I'm going to be late. And you said, well, we need a payment here as soon as possible. And within 2 weeks of the date the payment was due, Mr. Rios went to repossess the car. Don't you think it would have been good form to give her a call and say, listen, we're going to come to repossess this car unless you get a payment in here?
We didn't start repossession procedures until December the 1st.
What I'm saying to you is your first payment, sir, was due November 22nd. She had already made your 4 pickup fee payments. So we're not talking about a month or 2 months here. We're talking about less than 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
10 days. What if she had gotten her payment to you 5 days on November 27th?
I would have stopped repossession procedure.
Listen to me. You didn't start them until December 1st, Mr. Workman. What if she had called and said, I'm going to be a little late with my payment? And you said, we need a payment as soon as possible. And she got her payment to you on the 27th or the 28th of November.
I would have never started repossession procedures.
Right, because that's really not late. If you're 5 days late, people usually don't start repossession in 5 days, right? Right?
No, ma'am.
You start repossession in 5 days?
Within 5 days, if they default on the first payment.
Well, she really didn't. She made 4 payments. She made 4 payments, and one of them was for this bogus delivery fee. Right?
No, Your Honor. She only made 2 payments of $200, $100 and another $100.
I thought you said that you sent in $200 twice.
I did.
Let me see the checks.
I do not have them. It was cash that I gave.
I have the receipt, Your Honor.
Can I see them, please?
Yes.
Miss Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't try to put one over on me, madam.
I'm not. I did make those payments.
Don't try to pull one over on me, madam. Okay. She came in and she gave you $100 here on 10/25, and on 10/17 she gave you another $100. Absolutely right. You're a fibber, Miss Moore. You made 2 payments on the $400 pickup fee. You didn't make all the payments, so you were really far behind. Mr. Workman, you're absolutely right. I would have started to repossess the car, too. All right, so now on the 2nd of December, you've just come out of the shower, you look outside, you see Mr. Rios, he's going into your backyard to retrieve the truck, which he had a perfect right to do because you were delinquent in your payment. And what happened?
Well, when I came out, I told him he needed to leave.
And did he leave?
No. He stood there trying to intimidate me. I yelled for my 4-year-old to grab the phone. I called 911. He took off running.
Okay.
When I walked around to the front of the gate, my gates were standing wide open, and 3 of our dogs were gone. The fence posts, because they had opened it so wide to get the truck out, were pulled out of the ground. One of the dogs came back, which belonged to my landlord, who lives in an apartment on the property. My dog did not come back, as well as one of his.
All right. Now, the only reason that I have a question for you is, why didn't you just take the truck?
I didn't take the truck because she was inside the car. As soon as she saw me coming in, she went and ran and got inside the car.
I did get in the car because I was told that it was okay by Neil.
Just a second. So you didn't take it because she was sitting in the car?
Right.
Now I understand. All right. What's next?
We put the flyers up for a lost dog.
I don't care about your lost dog, madam. Let's go. Let's move forward. Now, why didn't you pay for the car?
I was paying for the car. I was out of work.
You didn't, Miss Moore. You didn't pay for the car.
You're right. I was behind, and I had plans on coming in. I told him that. After this happened, I sent him a letter. The dog was gone. We had the dog for 6 years.
If he wanted the truck, why didn't you give it to him?
Because I had invested so much money in repairing the top, the engine, the tires. I had over $3,000 in repairs already invested into this, as well as trading my vehicle. And I didn't want...
He was there. He had a right to take back his property. You knew that you hadn't paid for the property.
I was also told it would be okay. And after...
No. He didn't tell you it would be okay.
He did tell me it would be okay.
No, I don't believe that. I believe that what he said to you was, we need a payment as soon as possible. I think it would have been right for him to call you and say, bring the car in, rather than sending Mr. Rios out to get it. So he tried to repossess the car on December 2nd. And you got into the car, which you didn't tell me.
Yes, I sat in the
you didn't tell me. You said he ran away. So he didn't take the car. What happened next?
He didn't take the car. I called Neil to say why. You know, you told me it would be okay. I was coming in on December the 2nd to make the payment.
Okay, so now we come to December 2nd. Did you go in and make a payment December 2nd?
No, I didn't. I sent him a letter saying that we wanted the lien released because of the fact that we had to put all the money into fixing the fence, replacing the landlord's dog, and our dog, which we had had for 6 years.
So you told him in your letter, you have a copy of the letter?
Yes, I do.
Well, that you have a copy of.
There you go.
Thank you. This says, we are writing to request the release of the lien for your car, which means you want him to give you the car free and clear. Correct? And you want him to give you the car free and clear because you say your company committed multiple crimes, including breaking and entering, unlawful entry, inflicting of emotional distress on our 4-year-old. Your illegal action caused the loss of 2 family pets, My landlord is preparing to sue you for the loss of his dog, breaking and entering. We have witnesses. We're asking that you release the lien within 5 days. Failure to do so will result in us filing a lawsuit, possibly criminal charges, and the loss of your dealer's license. So what you're saying to them is, I took your car. I didn't pay for it.
Yes.
You tried to come and get it. We don't like the way you try to come and get it. And unless you release the car so that we get the car for free, we're going to sue you. That's what, in effect,
I know.
In effect, that's what you're saying to them, Miss Moore.
Yes, because...
All right. Well, you know, that's comes under the category of major chutzpah. That means nerve.
Your Honor?
I'm not saying that I like your tactics. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I don't like your tactics. But this letter that suggests that you should get the car for free is major nerve. All right. So you wrote him this letter, and what happened, Miss Moore?
We didn't hear from them.
And then?
On January 19th, we went to Walmart. I ran in to grab some milk. My husband and son had stayed in the car. When I came out, my husband was running around yelling, "Call 911." Mr. Rios had punctured the tire, and a few minutes later, a car came and blocked us in. I dialed 911. The police came, told them that they had no right to the vehicle, and they needed to leave. I have a towing receipt from that night, my husband's hospital bill, and a receipt for the tire.
What was his hospital bill for?
When he was in the car, he was turned around playing with my son when he punctured it. My husband went to get up, and the seat broke, causing a pain in his back. I have the doctor's notes.
I don't need a doctor's note. He looks just fine to me. You feeling good, sir?
Better.
Do you work?
Right now, no.
Actually, he's disabled.
Disabled as a result of what?
A bad car accident in 1999.
So he hasn't worked since 1999?
No, ma'am.
Oh, come on.
So he received disability?
We're still trying.
So he doesn't receive disability?
I support my family.
How?
I own a business.
What kind of business?
A collection agency.
Okay. So it's those two incidents that you're suing him for, madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Okie dokie, good. Now, when did you finally give him back the car?
We went to court for mediation. We're in there, and he's bad-mouthing me very loud to everybody.
When did you finally give him back the car?
I gave him back the car on April the 4th.
Your Honor, she called me and told me that Mr. Rios tried to repossess the vehicle again. So I told her, I said, well, it looks like you're not going to give up the vehicle, so I'm going to go ahead and get a court order to release the vehicle to me. She quoted saying, if you do, I will deliver the car in pieces.
That is
and
not
I have pictures
true.
up here of the vehicle after she delivered.
Are you telling me she delivered this car like this?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take pictures of the car the day that you returned it?
No, I didn't feel it was important.
There you go.
Yeah, no.
Would you show that to Ms. Moore,
We had an
please?
officer escort us because of all the problems that they had given us.
Oh, well, then
This
let me see
company-
that. Let me see that police report.
That is not the vehicle that we delivered. It had some damage to it, but that is not the condition we returned that vehicle in. Mr. Rios has been in prison due to operating chop shops.
Shh, don't go there. Don't go there. You didn't do the right thing, Miss Moore. You have to come to court with clean hands. This, madam, is not an illegal repossession. You enjoyed this car for 6 months without paying for it.
Your Honor.
Miss Moore, and
Yes.
you can't do that. You buy something, you pay for it. If you don't pay for it, the company, even if you're dealing with people that are questionable, I mean, I don't like this contract, and I told them I don't like this contract, but you're a businesswoman, you have, according to a collection agency, yet you want me to believe, Miss Moore, that you purchased a car, and I didn't take my receipt, and I didn't take a copy. Miss Moore, I'm sympathetic only marginally with you. You didn't do the right thing. You purchased a car, and then you sought to get it for nothing. Now, I'm not 100% positive that this is her car. I mean, I have a VIN number here, and I have to be able to see that this is the same car. She says it's not. This isn't the same way she delivered it. I'm not so sure because Miss Moore fibs.
Your
She
Honor.
What?
When we went to court for it, the judge, because they filed to sue under a false name, the judge gave them 30 days to amend their suit. That was on April the 28th. They didn't refile again until after I filed my lawsuit.
How come you didn't do it? Shh. How come you didn't do it?
What we was going to do, Your Honor, is just write it off as a bad loan.
Well, then maybe that's what you should do, sir. Maybe that's what you ought to do. You had 30 days in which to refile. You didn't do that. So you are bound by this judge's order. As far as your complaint is concerned, Ms. Moore, you buy something, you pay for it. You're in business, you know that. You wouldn't like it if, in your business, if you collected a fee from somebody and the business that you collected a fee for didn't pay you. What would you do? What would you do? That's how you're in business. That's how you support your family.
I have laws that I go by, and I've never let...
One of the basic laws, madam, is if you buy something, you pay for it. Otherwise, it's called stealing. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may...
19-year-old waitress Aubrey Ellsworth is suing her ex-boyfriend, James Sanchez, and his mother, Joanne Neri, for 2 unpaid loans. Aubrey says she loaned Joanne money to move and James money to fix his truck.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 78 on the calendar in the matter of Ellsworth versus Neri Sanchez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Ellsworth, this young man used to be your boyfriend, and you are Miss Neri, you are his mother.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you lived for a period of time with your boyfriend and his mother, and you made each of them a series of loans. His mother at some point told you to leave the house. You left. You want your money. Each of the defendants say that they owe you nothing. Money that you gave Miss Neri was for expenses, your expenses while you lived in the house. And her son, James, says anything that you gave him were gifts because he took care of certain things for you. When did you move in with Miss Neri and her son?
In June of 2004.
And what were you doing at the time?
At the time, I was working for Forever 21.
Now tell me about the first loan you made to Mrs. Neri.
The loan I had made to Mrs. Neri was for $2,000. She said she had needed it for the down payment on the house that we were going to move into. She stated that she had asked her dad to borrow the money, and he had said no, and that I was the last resort, and if I couldn't loan her the money, we would have nowhere to live.
Where had you been living?
I had been living with them in an apartment.
So you all wanted to move someplace else together. Did you sign the lease?
Yes, I did.
On the new place?
On the new place, yes. I was told that I was not going to be a renter on the house, and that the only reason why I needed to sign the paperwork was because I was over 18.
You have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Well, the 3 of you were clearly on the lease, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, you read this document, didn't you?
I didn't read the whole thing, no.
Why not?
Because she said she needed it signed, and so she stated that...
Miss Ellsworth, you go to school?
Yes.
What school do you go to?
Bakersfield College.
I assume that at least in your spare time when you were younger, you watched a little television?
Yes, I do.
You watched enough courtroom television to know that you're not supposed to sign something that you don't read?
Yes.
So let's not play with each other. So you signed it.
Yes.
And you should have read it. And if you didn't read it, that's not my problem.
Yeah. I did pay rent on the house.
Until you were evicted?
Yes, pretty much.
How much was security and the deposit on this apartment?
I think altogether it was like $1,800. I'm not quite sure.
$1,850?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that money from?
From her, because the reason why we had to move from the apartment, because I was at the apartment for over a year already. I came home one day from work, and she was living in my apartment. I told my son, look, this cannot work. You know, I don't want her living here. You know, she has a home. She told me she had nowhere to go because her mom was an abusive mother. So, you know, I kind of felt sorry for her. So the next thing I knew, her dog Louie, she has a little dog Louie, he was tearing up the curtains and everything. So I'm a single mommy. I couldn't just come up with that money just to move. So, you know, I had no choice. I asked my dad, and my dad goes, well, it's your fault. You should have never let her move in. You know, why you have to move, because the reason why we had to move, because she wasn't on the lease. It was breach of contract, they said.
I can understand if you're moving in together, she's on the lease, she should pay 1/3 of $1,850.
Okay, we moved in that home after we got kicked out of the apartment.
Listen to me. You don't have to get kicked out of the apartment. All you have to do is put the 2 of them out. And you can stay.
Right.
Well, he's not going anywhere without her. You could stay. Put them out.
No, she said we had to move.
Listen to me. $1,850. Only 1/3 of that. She's on the lease. Only 1/3 of that is hers.
Right.
Why did you throw her out?
I didn't throw her out. She was there. Her and my son were always arguing. it got to the point where I'd come out of work and I didn't want to go home anymore. She was possessive with my son, very possessive with my son.
Did you tell her to leave?
I did not tell her she had to leave. She got upset because I came home one day, the place was dirty. I figured if I'm working, and they're home, they should at least have the place clean. We got in an argument. My son heard me say, me and my son were arguing. She got up and she left. I didn't verbally say, oh, Aubrey, you have to leave.
She had told me all the time that I had brought sin into her house and that I was bringing chaos and that she didn't want me living there. Her son told me numerous times, I don't have to leave, it's you that has to leave. My mom doesn't want you living here. She threatened to kick him out all the time. She threatened to kick me out all the time just to have, in my opinion, a control.
What?
First of all, my mom never kicked her out. Me and Aubrey used to argue a lot. Yeah, we did.
So it's a good thing she left, right?
No, I don't know if it's
Listen to what I said. Stop thinking about what you're going to say next and start listening to my question. So it's a good thing that she left.
Yes.
For the sake of argument,
I'm speaking to you.
Hey.
Yeah, give him a good one.
Okay.
So it's a good thing that she left.
Yes, but she wasn't told to leave.
No, it came to her by mental telepathy, like Karnak, you know. You wanted her to leave, and your mother wanted her to leave.
Honestly, no, I didn't want her to leave. Honestly, no, I didn't.
He was upset and crying. I didn't ask her to leave because she was still on the lease. It was up to, like, I think March. She left on her own. She came out storming, and she left on her own. That's the honest.
All right, you got $1,850, Miss Ellsworth. That she has to give you back. I don't believe. How old are you?
In my 30s, late 30s.
30, in my 30s, late 30s.
Yeah.
What kind of an answer is that? How old are you?
39.
She's 18. You're 21 years her senior. She doesn't support you. You take care of her. All right. Don't go into little things with me. I'm not interested in little things. What does he owe you for?
He owes me for his truck. I helped him fix his truck. I got him a new tire, which was $76. And then I had helped him fix his truck because he had gotten rear-ended February of 2004. He could not...
February of 2004?
Yes.
Where were you for the last year?
I've been trying to collect it. We didn't get the truck, though, starting to fix until September.
Does that make sense to you?
She didn't give me all the money.
What did she give you?
I paid her half of the money back.
What did she give you is my question.
All she gave me was $150 because I paid $150 of it back to her, so it totaled out to $300, and with my $150 coming back to her, it canceled out. And then I went and paid a couple months of rent for her that she didn't pick up on. And this whole thing, we both assumed that we were just going to break it off even like that. Because, like, I mean, we were living together, and it's like, then when we break up, she goes, oh, well, now you owe me for this and you owe me for that.
Do you want to know something, Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah.
I agree with you. How's that?
I mean, like,
I agree with you.
I honestly believe if we were still together...
Just a second. Give it to him good.
I honestly...
Give it to him good. Miss
I
Neary.
honestly...
Miss Neary. Good. Give it to him good. Because he doesn't get it. I just said I agree with you.
Okay.
Stop. No more. Listen to your mother.
Can I just add one last thing then?
Why do you want to add something? I just said I agree with you. You want to tell her you love her? You want to get married? You want to propose to her here?
No, I already have
Then just
another
listen to your mother.
girlfriend.
Your mother's telling you to shut up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It wasn't my truck.
Listen, Miss
You didn't
Ellsworth.
have a car for a while, and I was
Mr.
driving
Sanchez,
you working
you want
back.
you want your mother to slap you upside the head?
And later today,
He was stealing from the casino.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody forces you to steal, ma'am.
Well, this gentleman here did.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Aubrey Ellsworth says both her ex-boyfriend and his mother owe her money. James Sanchez and Joanne Neary claim Aubrey is controlling and possessive.
When you're in a relationship and you have $100 here and $76 there and $40 there and $50 there, courts don't want to get involved with that if the relationship doesn't work out.
It wasn't my truck.
I don't care whose truck it was. It wasn't my truck.
You drove it.
It was a truck that
Like
you
it was
at least
yours?
rode in. That's what you do when people live together.
Not when it gets impounded. He got it impounded.
Listen, Miss
You
Ellsworth.
didn't have a car for a while, and I was
Mr.
driving
Sanchez,
you working
you
back.
want me to? You want your mother to slap you upside the head?
No.
She's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Next time he opens his mouth, Miss Neary, give it to him good. You don't have a lawsuit against Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez and you live together in a monogamous, physical relationship, and I'm certain that during the time that you lived together, you went out to eat, he paid, sometimes you paid, other times you went to a movie, you went to a fair, you went out, he bought you a Frankfurter, he bought you a cup of coffee, you bought him,
I wish
whatever
it were
it
like
is,
that.
whatever it
It's
is.
hard to be like that if you're as jealous as you are. If you weren't so jealous, it could have been better.
No, no, no. Harder! Harder!
I have a restraining order on him.
Harder!
So.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that is Miss Neary, in the amount of $1,850. Your lawsuit with regard to Mr. Sanchez is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
He became violent with me, and he started stalking me, following me, going to my job.
As far as harassing and stalking, she was the one writing me letters all day in class and following me and my new girlfriend outside of school.
He wanted to marry me. He wanted to be with me. It became an obsession that became violent and physical.
She stalked me a couple times where I had to call the cops on her and almost have her put in jail.
It got to a point to where my work was saying, I'll put the restraining order on him for you if you don't.
She's mad because I don't want to get back with her and I found a better girl.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Richter versus Falk. Step forward, please.
20-year-old physical therapy technician, Levita Richter, is suing her former friend, 21-year-old caregiver, Adriana Falk, for bail money, a loan to get her car fixed, and the cost of a bridesmaid's dress.
Miss Richter, you and the defendant had been friends, according to the complaint that I read.
Yes, Your Honor.
And there was a point when she was in some difficulty. Did she come to live with you at that point?
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
When was that?
About October.
October of 2004?
Yes.
Who were you living with?
My fiancé.
Who's now your husband?
Yes.
Is that him?
No.
Who was this?
This is my witness.
According to you, there are 2 loans outstanding. And in addition to the 2 loans, you claim that Miss Falk owes you for this bridesmaid's dress. I assume that this is the bridesmaid's dress. She was an attendant at your wedding. They were supposed to pay for their own dresses. You claim she did not pay for hers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Falk says that both of those times when you gave her the money, it was a gift, and the bridesmaid's dress she says she paid for even though you still have it.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you go to live with Miss Richter and her fiancé, Miss Falk?
I was having some problems with my mother and needed to get out of the situation that I was in.
Now, when was the first time that she gave you money?
When this guy right over here got me into trouble at my employment, I was taken to jail because of him and his roommates and what they had asked me to do for them. And
well, why don't you explain that to me further?
Okay, I was working at Colusa Casino in Colusa County. And
where is that?
Part of Northern California.
Go ahead.
Me and Mr. Weiser had started dating, and him and his roommates knew obviously that I worked at a casino and asked me if I could possibly give them players cards with instant rewards on them, which is like a credit, and they can go in the casino and play. Well, I told them a number of times I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Now I'm being charged for all 4 of those gentlemen and what they asked me to do.
Just a second. So they asked you to get them these cards, and you said no. So how could you be charged with anything?
Because I did it anyways.
Oh, so you did it. You did something illegal.
Yes, ma'am.
Levita Richter says former friend Adriana Falk owes for bail money, a loan to have her car fixed, and the cost of a bridesmaid's dress.
Explain to me how you did something illegal.
I would go in and add the instant rewards to their cards. That gentleman right there would come in and play his, not only, and all 4 of his
I don't
roommates'
understand the
cards.
instant rewards. What does that mean?
It's just like a credit you can go in and play on slot machines. You can't cash it out. The only thing you cash out is what you win, but you cannot cash out anything on that card.
But you can play with it.
Yeah.
And you knew you were doing, in effect, you were stealing from the casino.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody forces you to steal, madam. That's
well,
not
this
anybody.
gentleman here did.
No, he didn't. No, Miss Falk. That's not true. If I asked Bird to falsify a document for me, and I've known him for a very long time, 25 years?
At least.
At least. I guarantee you he would not do it for me. And he likes me. And if I asked somebody that I cared about to do something illegal, I would not be angry if they said, no, that's illegal.
Well, they were when I said no.
So then what you say to somebody who's asking you to do something wrong is, I'm sorry. You can be angry, and if you want to not see me anymore, you don't see me anymore. If you want to not be my friend, You don't want to be my boyfriend, whatever it is. But you don't blame somebody else for you're doing something criminal.
There are charges pending on them, but I don't know what they are yet.
Are there charges pending against you?
Yes, there is.
For what?
For second-degree burglary, and it's burglary in the second degree, and then the grand theft as well.
Oh, well, I'm not going to ask you any questions about that because those matters are pending. I'm sorry. You represented by an attorney with regard to that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stupid. Anyway, you got into trouble and she bailed you out?
Yeah. He was on his way home and he called her and asked her to bail me out of jail.
Who asked her?
I had called Mr. Weiser and told him that I was in jail because he knew that I was going to meet with the security officers at the casino that morning. Then I ended up being arrested after about an hour or two of questioning. I was taken into custody and arrested, and I called him. He was the first person that I was able to call, and he called her and asked her to bail me out.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Who called?
The bail bond gentleman called me at work.
Oh, but she didn't call you.
I spoke to her, and she asked me to come bail her out.
When? You said the bail bondsman called.
I talked to her after the bail bonds gentleman called, and I was allowed to talk to her. And she was crying. She said, please come get me out of this place.
You went there and you bailed her out?
Yes.
What arrangements did you make for her to pay you back?
She was to pay me back. She had promised me that she would pay me back because that's just, I wasn't just going to give it to her. I was getting married in a few months, and I didn't have that money to spare.
Well, I want to know what conversation did you have with her with regard to paying you back?
She just...
Don't tell me what she understood,
She
Ms.
just
Richter.
said, you know, I promise that I'll pay you back. I thank you for bailing me out.
When did she say that to you?
In front of the bail bond gentleman, when we were signing these papers.
Let me see the papers. Okay, what was the next amount of money?
It was the
Explain.
$500 that I loaned her to have her car fixed.
Okay, let me hear.
She was driving a Geo Metro. It needed some repairs. It was $1,000 to have it fixed. Matt was my witness. He was going to pay half, and I was going to pay the other half. I wrote him a check. He deposited it into his bank account, and he
Well,
used
just a
his credit
second.
card.
Why were you going to pay half? I don't hear what...
She didn't have the money to pay it, and it needed to be fixed, or else she wouldn't be able to drive back and forth to work.
Well, when did you have that discussion with her, Miss Richter?
It was...
On the phone while I was at Winco.
It was not on the phone. She was in my...
Just a minute. Where was it?
I was at Winco with Mr. Weiser at the time, and she called me and told me that her and her husband now were going to loan me the $500.
No, just a second. She said she and her husband were going to loan you the $500. Perfect. And she did. So why don't you have to pay her back?
She had me arrested.
What did she have you arrested for?
Charges on credit card fraud.
And that's another thing that's pending against you? I don't want to hear about it. So she's alleging that you took money from her credit cards. And she called and had you arrested. Sounds right to me. $815 so far. Now let's hear about the bridesmaid's dress.
Bridesmaid's dress, I was getting married March. She was my maid of honor. I have a list of the other two ladies that were my bridesmaids. They knew they were all to pay for the dress. If they did not pay for the dress, they were to not be in the wedding. Being she was my supposed best friend living with me, I assumed that she would pay me back for it.
Don't assume anything.
That's my fault.
That's your fault is right. It's a very nice dress. I hope you can wear it. You don't assume anything. After she didn't have $315, which she didn't give you back for the bail bondsman, and $500 she didn't have for her car, really $1,000 she didn't have for her car, how you could legitimately expect her to pay for a dress, expect her to pay for a dress, is something I quite frankly don't understand. So it looks like a very nice dress. It's yours. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $815. Thanks. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Advancement in healthcare technologies mean that there is an increasing need to have precise and reliable yet biocompatible electronic devices. These devices are essential to have reliable and precise as reliability prevent them from a failure at life critical state and higher recursion makes them more accurate in monitoring and treating physiological parameters. Alternative biocompatibility minimize the risk of adverse biological reaction and provides seamless health technologies or implantable device will also generate new tools and knowledge that will have to be included in the my electron assist system that should be tailored to those specific health challenges. And this include implantable medical devices such as a pacemaker, defibrillator, scolar implants, and deep brain stimulator, which need to run in the body for long periods of time with excellent reliability and precaution. Biosensor is a electronics device used to detect biological information, microelectrons device for drug delivery. My electrons device can be utilized for precise control of drug delivery, helping to enhance efficiency will minimize side effects. Lab on chip device small, but they can replace very complex laboratory functions like DNA analysis and detection of protein. Problem statement: a major challenge has to maintain the long-term stability of the active electrode component in this dynamic biological environment. The immune response and chemical composition of human body can cause performance degradation of the device over time, leading to decreased accuracy and safety. Excuse protein adhesion followed by mineral deposit and encapsulation by cells can diminish sensor readout and block actuator function, which may cause trip in device performance and required recuperation or replacement. One of the most significant challenges has to that electron devices are compatible with the human body and dates are no adverse reaction. Implantable devices require long-term and reliable power source to enable continuous operation. Wireless communication reliably and securely facilitates device interaction with the external system and remote patients monitoring and data transmission. The microchip function is moving at an unprecedented rate while new shapes and forms emerge. Improvement of precaution and stability to maintain diagnostics and create new sensing that can operate within a biological system and remain threat over time. Research efforts minimize interaction with biological processes which can lead to more reliable diagnostics and reduce recirculation demands. Effort in power optimizations and management aim at develop new techniques to minimize power consumption